to ask Isis Cruz to come to the podium and lead us in our pledge, please.
Good evening, President Gates, trustees, Dr. Brady, and executive cabinet. My name is Isis Cruz, and I'm a fifth grader at Olivewood Elementary. Today, on behalf of Olivewood Elementary and the National School District, I have the honor of leading us of the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and face the flag and place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, please remain standing for the national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, through the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave? Thank you. You may now be seated.
Very impressive. Thank you. Thank you very much, Isis. Yes, that was the first. All right. Will you please call the roll?
Ms. Lopez,
Present.
Ms. Sarmiento,
Present.
Ms. Castañeda,
Present.
Ms. Avalos,
Present. Present. And at this time, I would like to call for a moment of silence. On March 6th, we lost a previous National School District student and a current Sweetwater senior. And we want to take a moment to remember Preston Cortez and to think about his family as they figure out how to live life without him with them. So if you would give us a moment, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Our thoughts and prayers go to his family, to his friends, to those who would have to figure out what life is like. So thank you. In closed session, the board voted unanimously to approve an agreement reached through alternative dispute resolution that resolves compensatory services owed to a student eligible for special education. The agreement provides services in exchange for a waiver of claims against the district. And now we will move forward with item 5, presentations. I will point out I am going to be attentive to our time because it's 7 o'clock on the dot. We are supposed to move to our public hearing. I do have my alarm set. I will try to avoid using that, but in case I get distracted because, absolutely the kids are the coolest thing when they are doing presentations. But we do need to be attentive to our time for a public hearing. So I just wanted to let you know that ahead of time, that my alarm may go off at 6:55. So thank you very much. Item 5, presentations. Item 5A is a presentation by the Superintendent Roundtable. Dr. Brady.
Well, yes, our roundtable is back to give the board an update on the work that they have been doing. These are sixth grade students from across the district. If I could have my colleagues that are here tonight to present, please go over to the podium and you can take it from here. Thank you.
Good evening, President Gates, trustees, Dr. Brady, and executive cabinet. My name is Malca Perez from Rancho de la Nacion School, and I am honored to represent the Superintendent Student Roundtable tonight. As you know, the Superintendent Student Roundtable is a group of sixth graders who promote district initiatives, take action on the global goals, and model the traits defined in our profile of a National School District learner, which you have in front of you tonight. The traits in the profile of a National School District learner serve as our guiding principles throughout our years in the National School District, shaping the way we learn, lead, and make a difference in the world around us. One of our major projects this year is our original Global Goal songs, which we are creating in partnership with San Diego State University. Since the last board update, our group has been working hard on the artwork for our songs, recording tracks, and preparing for an upcoming forum at the Fleet Science Center, where we will share our knowledge and work with other San Diego schools. Tonight, we are excited to give you an update on our progress. This is from my colleague, Orlando Orozco, who couldn't attend today. At our last board presentation, you heard about the start of our creative process, how we explored existing album covers and brainstormed ways to visually represent the themes and emotions of our songs. Each band worked together to sketch ideas, designs, and develop a plan for our artwork. Since then, we have taken the next step in our creative journey. At our most recent roundtable session, we reviewed our outlines and engaged in a college-level crash course on painting with acrylics. We explored techniques like dry brushing, washing, dabbing, and stippling, practicing each one to determine how we want to bring our designs to life. This experience challenged us to be open-minded, experiment with new methods, and embrace creativity in unexpected ways. We pushed our artistic boundaries to apply creative problem solving and challenges the status quo in our designs. As we continue refining our artwork, we remain curious, flexible, and focused on improving our designs. We look forward to sharing our final pieces with you soon. This is for my colleague Julian Lopez, who couldn't attend today. This is my band listening to each other's ideas as we create our song and artwork about gender equality in sports.
So Julian, tell me a little bit about your band. What's your band's name?
Triple JD. That stands for our first names. So J for my name, Jose, David,
What are you, what's your song about?
Gender equality, as sports issue.
What are some of the things you guys are talking about in your song?
Give the same payment to women as we give the same payment to men. Doing our lyrics right now. We're gonna record it, and we might practice more in the garage band. Noise sampling. It's about, I guess, like primarily noise, about noises, short noises in the garage band.
Do you like what you're doing?
Yeah, it's really fun.
Good evening, President Gates, trustees, Dr. Brady, and executive cabinet. My name is Melanie Barber from Olive School, and I am honored to share my band experience recording our song. Our group, made up of 3 boys and 2 girls, worked together to turn our lyrics into music with purpose and creativity. First, the girls recorded a verse we wrote about pollution in the Tijuana River, followed by the boys recording the verse on the issue. Finally, we all came together to collaborate on the chorus, which focuses on healing our community. Beyond recording lyrics, we explored ways to enhance our message through sounds. Each of us experimented with individual sound effects, which be mixed with our GarageBand tunes and sampling effects to create a final song. This process challenges us to think critically, make decisions as a team, and communicate ideas in a way that resonates with others. Here's a sneak peek of us recording our chorus.
The speed is going to be a little faster.
Together we can heal. 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 Together we can heal.
No guitar.
Good evening, President Gates, trustees, Dr. Brady, and executive cabinet. My name is Adrian Collazo from Lincoln Acres School, and I am honored to share an important announcement. On Earth Day, April 22nd, 2025, our Superintendent Roundtable will take part in a global forum at the Fleet Science Center, joining 200 students from Encinitas Union, San Isidro, and Del Mar Union school districts. Together, we will learn from one another and explore global challenges through the lens of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Our district is responsible for SDG number 13, climate action. To participate, our roundtable had to research climate issues, reflect on their impact, and prove that we can teach others about solutions. This experience has deepened our understanding of global responsibilities and the importance of advocating for a more just and sustainable world. Because of our efforts, we've earned golden tickets, allowing each of us to invite a friend to be part of this meaningful event. In closing, we would like to offer you a golden ticket as well. You can stop by the Fleet Science Center on Earth Day and see the work we are doing to address global. We hope you can join us. So that is what our Superintendent Roundtable is currently working on. Do you have any questions?
Do we have any questions from the board?
I have a question. Well, first, thank you so much for presenting and showing us your process. My question, as a fellow singer, what was your favorite part of creating the song?
For me personally, it's working together as a group, creating and making cool things in GarageBand and putting them together as a song.
For me,
The other
it's
singer up there?
that we all get to work together as a team.
What I like about the singing part is it encourages us to be more confident, because when you sing, you have to gain more confidence.
Very good, yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any of you play instruments to add to your singing?
We don't play instruments, but on GarageBand, there's instruments we can explore with.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
And favorite one was?
mine personally is the drum.
Okay.
I'm sure your parents do that.
Mine is the piano.
Nice.
Mine is also the piano.
Okay, very nice. Good job.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'd like to just make a comment. I remember years ago, and my kids were involved in music, and their director, Mr. Ed Reed, who was at the junior high and the high school levels, he used to tell them that once you learn to read music from left to right, it develops your reading skills, makes you more intelligent, and you've probably already seen that already, knowing that what you're creating there in music, like you mentioned before, your confidence is going up your confidence level. So as a result, you're improving on yourselves as an individual, and that's wonderful. Congratulations. Awesome.
Thank you. So with that being said, I would like to congratulate you on your presentation and thank you for opening up and coming out of your comfort zone. I would say I have to learn from you guys because I would not have thought about getting in front of anybody and singing. You probably won't want me to either. So we'll just leave it as that. But we do also have another fellow singer up there that you probably would like to sing. So maybe one of these days they can do a duet for you guys. So I'm gonna award your certificate and your little award here, and then you're gonna go to the front. Parents, please don't be shy. You can still take as many pictures as you would like, and then anybody from your respective schools, administration, teachers, and so on, please join them. And then we'll go ahead and move on. So Melanie Barba. Adrian Curias.
Teachers, administrators, Dr. Brady. Come on down. Ms. Norma, come on. Thank you. All right. Item 5B is a presentation by our Olivewood School students with Principal Zulma Santana.
At Olivewood Elementary, our focus this school year has been on writing and empowering students to express themselves through written communication. As a result, we have launched the Shine Writing Contest, inviting students to share how they can illuminate human potential to positively impact their school and the world. Tonight, we are proud to showcase the 3 exceptional students whose writing has been selected as the winners of Olivewood Shine Writing Contest. They represent the voices of Olivewood student body. Their work embodies our National School District Learner Profile, all essential skills for making a meaningful impact in our world. These students exemplify how every Olivewood student has the potential to shine and inspire others and contribute to a brighter future for all. Please welcome our first student presenters as they share their inspiring work. First up is Mateo Franco.
Franco, or third place winner.
Good evening, President Gates, Trustee Dr. Brady, and Executive Cabinet. My name is Matias Franco, and I am a first grade student at Olivewood Elementary and third place shine writing contest winner. I can make Olivewood a better place by following the wise owl ways. They are kind, safe, respectful, and responsible. We can be safe and responsible by walking and keeping our hands to ourselves. Also, we can be kind and respectful by using our manners like chewing with our mouth closed. This is how we can make Olivewood a better place.
Good evening, President Gates, trustees, Dr. Brady, and Executive Cabinet. My name is Camila Loaiza, and I am a fourth grade student at Olivewood Elementary and second place shine writing contest winner. Illuminating human potential to positively impact the world. My personal actions and goals to contribute. To make Olivewood community a better place is sharing knowledge by supporting others and cultivating a positive mindset, focusing on things that can help you when you're older. I can demonstrate leadership, kindness, and the power of working together at Olivewood. I can participate in activities so I can be a role model to younger students and take initiative by doing random acts of kindness like opening doors for others and saying positive words to students. My positive contributions can inspire others by sharing my knowledge, being friendly, using good vocabulary, and keep discovering new skills to help myself. That is why it's important to learn so I can help others. Thank you. Good evening, President Gates, trustees, Dr. Brady, and Executive Cabinet. My name is Ashley David, sixth grader at Olivewood Elementary, and I am the first place shine writing contest winner. Help make our community a better place. Everyone has at least done something good for the community at least once in their life. Have you ever wondered how much you can change a community just by doing something good? It changes a lot in our community. If you're kind to others, then it will encourage them to do the same. Our community can change positively if we do the right thing. Maybe if we do good deeds, then our community will be out of this world. I am a proud part of my community, and I can demonstrate leadership and shine by starting a club that has missions to help our community. And I would start helping people in need and helping animals in need also. We can also help communities for our community. Our community can be better if we do our part in our community. First, to make our community a better place, we can start a club that helps our community. We can start missions for the people in the club to help them work towards the same goal. We can have clubs such as basketball, soccer, chess, etc. According to Command Education, the article stated that starting a club at your school is a fantastic way to build community around a shared passion, demonstrate leadership. This is important because it is saying that clubs at schools helps to build a small community that shares the same interests and helps demonstrate leadership. In this case, starting a club that helps with a community. Therefore, I would like to build my community by starting a club. Secondly, another way to help our community is by helping people in need. For example, we can donate to homeless shelters or give food to people who don't have any. According to American Red Cross, the article stated that helping others is an important part of life, giving you a sense of purpose and boosting your happiness. This shows that helping others makes both the person you're helping happy And you happy also. Helping others who need it is also another way we can bring each other together. We can also start a food drive in our school. Lastly, we can also have a community supper. This is also another way to bring us together just by having the community together and eating with each other like a family. According to Evergreen, the article says that community helps us form relationships. This means that if we have our community together, we can create new relationships and friendships. In conclusion, helping our community is important and can change a lot for people. I would like to start building more relationships to help our community become stronger. I am excited to share how my Shine writing has inspired action through my writing. I wanted to find ways to make a positive impact in our school and community. After sharing my writing with our school counselor, Ms. Tienda, we decided to start one of my projects this year, Olivewood. Even though I'll be moving on to middle school soon, I plan to return and continue working on my ideas. One of the projects I am excited about is organizing a food drive to support our local homeless community. These are steps I'm taking to turn my ideas into action. First, I met with Mr. Sanchez, our school resource officer, to help connect us with a homeless organization that will receive the donations. Next, I created a flyer to promote the food drive. We will post it around campus and share it with parents through talking points to encourage participation. After spring break, my friends and I will decorate collection boxes and place them around the school. Finally, once we reach the deadline, we will gather all the donations and deliver them to the homeless organization. I also brought a copy of the flyer with me today in case anyone is interested in supporting our cause. In addition to the food drive, I am proud to share that as a result of my writing, our school will be purchasing chess boards for recess and lunch. Chess is a game that helps students develop critical thinking, problem solving, and strategic planning skills. We will also be hosting a breakfast and books with our community, with our students and families to help build community. I am excited that my writing inspired this positive change for our school. Thank you for your time and attention and for supporting students like me in making a difference. Together we can all shine.
Some action here. Love it.
I'll take one. I'll take one.
Thank you so much, students, for presenting to us, and just hearing your writing is really amazing. It's a blessing to have you as part of our community and to see your leadership. And thank you, Ashley, for already putting everything into action. We're really excited to see that go. As I call your name, please go to the front. We'd like to take a picture with you and just honor you, and parents and family, please feel free to also take photos and come up with them. So Ashley Davis. Camila Loaiza. Matias Franco. And Isis Cruz. Thank you so much. We're so proud of you.
Family is more than welcome to join. Oh, yes, that's very good. We will be pulling item 5C at this time and placing it on a later agenda because our volunteer was unable to be with us tonight. We want to make sure they're able to be here. So I'll move to item 5D to recognize Dr. Julieta Robelo, RSP teacher, John Otis School as the National School District Employee of the Month for March 2025. Principal Brian Vine will share.
Context is going to be hard to read this, sorry. Good evening, Board President Gates, trustees, and executive cabinet. It is an absolute pleasure to stand before you today to recognize and celebrate someone truly outstanding. As we all know, the success of any school is built on the dedication and passion of its staff. And today, we are here to honor one individual who has gone above and beyond, making a huge impact on the lives of both students and colleagues alike. Dr. Julieta Robelo has been working for the district for 23 years. Now, as most of you know, when you work for a district for that long, you usually end up in different roles, different grade levels, different positions. Dr. Robelo has been in the same position for 23 years. A resource specialist. She loves it. And because of the reason we are all here, you know that she's really good at it. Dr. Robelo exemplifies the learner profile with one component in particular, compassionate. I'm going to read to you this component. Demonstrates kindness and caring. Actively listens to understand, respects others' points of view, displays empathy with a strong desire to help, support, and connect, strives to create a sense of belonging. Here are just a few things on how she embodies this profile. She headed our Socktober event, having each school collect socks for children in need. She helped with our district resource fair, where hundreds of families got materials and clothing for those in need. One of my personal favorites is she made our butterfly project happen. She organized assemblies with 4 women whose parents were Holocaust survivors. These amazing women educated our students on the Holocaust and encouraged them to paint butterflies that were a symbol for every child lost in the Holocaust. John Otis now has a beautiful memorial with hundreds of colorful butterflies in our cafeteria wall, so all the kids can see it every single day. You're all mad they come too, it's gorgeous. They did a really good job. Shout out to Miguel Garcia for making that happen twice. First time it didn't work to be a 3 weekend, but he's awesome and did it again. These are just a few of the amazing things Dr. Rebello does for our district and students. Her compassion, positivity, and tireless work ethic make her a true role model for us all. Dr. Rebello, thank you for everything you do. Your hard work and dedication are truly inspiring, and we are so fortunate to have you as part of our team. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Rebello as National School District's Employee of the Month. So Dr. Brady and I talked about this really cool idea where we were gonna get you milkweed, which butterflies are attracted to. I went to Home Depot and they didn't have any, so.
Good evening, everyone. This is such a great honor for me to be able to give you this award, the Employee of the Month award. You can tell by your compassion and the love that you have for our children in our district. To have all these events be so successful. Thank you for everybody that helped, and thank you. I'm just honored because I'm from National City here. So to have a person like yourself, an Excellent Month award, is very rewarding to me to be able to give you this award. Thank you so much. Dr. Julieta Romero. Muchas gracias. We also give her a pen. Let me see how you open this thing. Because we wanted to make sure she takes notes for the next successful event that she leads. Okay? She won't forget anybody's name and what she's supposed to do. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. This was an incredible surprise to me. Actually, Mr. Vine came over to my classroom and says, "Have you checked your email today?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "You're Employee of the Month." And I was like, "What?" So thank you again for thinking of me. It's been my honor to serve this community for 23 years. And well, I hope that God gives me the strength, I guess, and energy to continue working with our students and just be blessed by all of you. Thank you again.
Yes, if you want. Oh, center.
All right. Item 5E is to introduce and welcome the new employees. Dr. Kevin.
I have the pleasure of introducing our newest employee. Is Mr. Pilar Pedro Navarrete here? There he is. Come on over. Come on up. Mr. Navarrete has several years of experience in different transportation types, public transportation with Transdev North America. He has driven charter buses for Damaris, and he also has driven students for MCSS Miramar. Mr. Navarrete attended Sacramento State University and Southwestern College in Chula Vista. Welcome, Mr. Navarrete.
to explain this well every time. You are welcome to stay. We are happy to have you. But if your teacher assigned you homework, or your parents have dishes to wash, or you have dishes to wash and your parents have homework, this is the time where we let you go ahead. We're gonna do business stuff after, so please feel free to be here. But if you need to go, thank you so much for coming and being with us.
I just wanted to make sure, okay, because I have someone else who's here from the area. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Those who are staying, we appreciate that. Item 6 is public communications. Public communication provides the public with an opportunity to address the board regarding an item on the agenda or other topic. Anyone wishing to address the board shall submit a request for oral communications card. Cards are available near the entrance to the boardroom and are to be submitted to the recording secretary. A member of the public who wishes to address the board on any such matter is limited to 3 minutes for one matter, up to a maximum of 5 minutes for all closed and open session matters. There shall be a limit of 20 minutes for any matter unless such time limit is waived by majority vote of the board. Members of the public may not yield any time to other speakers. No board action can be taken. I have 2 speakers, one for this time and one for item 9A. So, Berta Lopez, thank you.
Okay, where's the clock first? Because I tend to talk a lot. Okay, don't start it yet, please. I think that's what happened last time. Thank you. Good evening, members of the board and the public. My name is Berta Lopez, and I'm a retired teacher who served here for 40 years in the National School District. I am here once again to make public comments regarding attendance at the CSBA conference and the presentations that were given. I firmly believe that the constituents of National City and the staff deserve to hold elected officials accountable. I noticed that all of you attended the CSBA conference in December in Anaheim at an approximate cost of $1,500 per member, but that doesn't include mileage. When rounded up, the total expense for the district was likely around $9,000. Why is this concerning? As someone who has attended many CSBA conferences in the past, I understand the value these workshops provide in supporting board members in their roles. However, at the last board meeting, board member Cindy Lopez made a comment stating, "We need to change the dynamics of the board." I completely agree. This board must be held accountable, especially when spending such a significant amount of taxpayers' money on attending a conference only to participate in a limited number of workshops. Based on the presentations that you shared, it was clear that some of you only attended 1 or 2 workshops, despite having access to at least 7 or more throughout the conference. This is evidence from the report that you provided to your colleagues as required by board policy. Additionally, Ms. Lopez, I recall first meeting you at a swearing in an event at the Otay Water District around noon on that Friday. My first question to you was, isn't the CSBA conference happening right now? And you confirmed and you said yes, that it was. That clearly indicates that you did not attend the full 3 days of conference. Furthermore, you mentioned that it was disheartening to hear that if you wanted to attend, you would have to pay for your own expenses, and that you were asked to make a presentation. However, Ms. Lopez, at that time, you were not sworn in. So actually, that was the expense of gift of public funds. Everything that I have stated raises serious concerns about the potential misuse of public funds. If some board members only attended 1 or 2 workshops when the district covered the full registration cost, and if Mrs. Lopez was funded to attend before officially taking office, this is also a gift of public funds. Please, we need to save our taxpayers' money. I urge this board to be more transparent and responsible when it comes to the allocation of public funds. National City and staff deserves accountability. Before I conclude, I just want to extend my appreciation to Board Member Gates and Castañeda for your thorough presentations following the CSBA conference. I learned a lot from both of you in regards to your presentations. Thank you so much. Woo, made it. Thank you.
Can I change mine from to general?
Mr. Nieto? All right, Ed Nieto?
Okay, there's a time clock here, okay? This is my first time I spoke here, bringing back memories. I'm a longtime resident. My mom worked for, my mom went to the schools here. My mom worked for many years as cafeteria lady. She was in charge of the diamond dip at the cafeteria. So I have a lot of feel to this. And the reason why I changed it but I'm here to talk about something a little bit more serious. And it's more of a question. I'm not here to ding anybody or anything like that, but I'm looking for clarification on what's the protocol when trustees post something on the internet, in the media, and then they limit public input. What's the protocol? Can they do that? Can they not do that? Do they limit public citizens' input? And the reason why I'm raising that question is because recently there was an invitation, luckily by Trustee Lopez, inviting people to come to a meeting, discuss the district meeting. And I thought that was great. And I responded, and that was good. And other people started responding, but then we started asking questions about why are we districting, and there was people who were responded in favor of districting, and there's people who responded not in favor of it. And in the midst of all this, Trustee Avalos just mentioned that she didn't vote for it, nothing else. And the next thing I know, the whole posting was gone. Mm-hmm. To me, I perceived it as suppressing public input on this issue. Subsequently to that, my perception, and correct me if I'm wrong, don't speak up, I'm susceptible for making mistakes. But my understanding, what happened subsequently, then it came back on with a filter saying that input for public comments was limited due to the Brown Act because Ms. Avalos had mentioned that she just voted no. To me, that was an overextension of the authority of why one trustee would limit another trustee and why one trustee would limit the public input on, and what was going on is a good dialogue. So my question, not to ding Trustee Lopez, my question is to clarify what are the roles and responsibilities in limiting public input, not only for social media, but for organizations and for comments. And, one thing I did feel it was disrespectful to Trustee Avalos. I thought it was disrespectful to the other people in the media. I thought it was disrespectful to me. And So, but I think I hopefully take this as a learning experience and we can get some input on what is it, what's the process, what's the policy of limiting public input? And I wish you best on discussing the districting. I'm not really in favor of it because now that I have any type of business, I'm not in favor of it because of what's happened at the city when we went to districting, and all of a sudden, you know, it was a good idea because of representation, but the idea was subsequently it was sort of corrupted when they did district budget. Okay, that's enough. Okay, thank you.
Thank you both. All right. I am going to go ahead. We have a few minutes before our 7 o'clock call time for our public hearing, and we're trying to be attentive to that. So I am going to go ahead with item 7, which is the agenda. 7A, to accept the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Trustee Lopez and Trustee Avalos. Do we have any questions? All right, I have a motion to accept the agenda by Trustee Lopez, a second by Trustee Avalos. Please vote. And item 8 is to approve the consent agenda, routine items of business. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be acted upon in one action by the board. It is understood that the superintendent has recommended approval for these items. There will be no discussion prior to the time the board votes on the motion unless members of the board, staff, or public request specific items to be discussed and/or removed from the consent agenda. All items approved by the board will be deemed considered in full and adopted as recommended. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve. I second the motion.
Any questions? All right, I have a motion to approve by Trustee Bettencourt Castaneda and a second by Trustee Avalos. Please vote. All right, and at this time, we are at item 9, which is general functions. And 9A will be to conduct our public hearing. So we are going to pause for the next 5 minutes as we wait for our 7 o'clock call time for the public hearing. If you are interested, there are bathrooms. You could do that, or you can wait with us. Thank you. All right, and it is 7:00. The Board of Education, item 9A, to conduct a public hearing on by trustee area election system promptly at 7 p.m. Call this public hearing to order. The Board of Education will convene a public hearing to receive public testimony concerning the composition of potential trustee voting areas associated with the district's transition to a by trustee area election system in advance of the preparation of draft trustee voting area plans by the district's demographer. We will now convene a public hearing. Under California Elections Codes, Section 10010, the board must hold at least 2 public hearings over a period of no more than 30 days, at which the public is invited to provide input regarding the composition of potential trustee voting areas before the district's demographer draws draft maps of the proposed trustee boundaries of the district. And now our legal counsel will be sharing with us.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for being here this evening. My name is Brandon Lalonde, and I'm an attorney with Fagan, Friedman, and Fulfrost. I know that's a long name, so F3 Law, that's an easier way to put it. I'm joined here tonight by David Cates, who works with MGT, and they're serving as the district's demographer in this case. They're going to be doing all of the data and the maps that we're going to see throughout this process. But as the board president stated, tonight is really about public input in advance of those maps being drawn. We're going to talk about the process, what the California Voting Rights Act is, go through some things that we've seen in other districts, and then open it up for comments about what communities of interest that the public would like to see kept together. Those are certain things that David and I just don't have. We don't have that information. So we think that it's best, and I think the law also thinks that it's best that we get that information from the people who do know it best, which would be members of the public and other questions from the board as well. All right, so before we jump into what the process is, I think we need to talk a little bit about what the California Voting Rights Act is. This was an overarching law that took effect in January of 2003. It prohibits the use of an at-large election system whenever that election system, and here's the quote, impairs the ability of a protected class to elect candidates of its choice or its ability to influence the outcome of an election. Courts have taken a look at this, and it's a really low standard for a prospective plaintiff to be able to argue that either of those things aren't happening. So it's important for the district to take proactive measures, which is what's happening in this case. The law does not require intent. It's far broader than the Federal Voting Rights Act, which means that it's much easier for a plaintiff to bring a claim against any government entity, including school districts. Proof of intent on the part of the voters or elected officials to discriminate is not required. So again, a really, really low bar that can lead to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in attorney's fees. Speaking of attorney's fees, the California Voting Rights Act grants a prevailing plaintiff the right to recover, quote, reasonable attorney's fees and expert witness fees. So if you know anything about lawsuits, they take up a lot of money and a lot of time very quickly. So if the district were to defend against a CVRA claim and try to maintain its at-large election system, they would potentially be liable for all of these fees and expert witness fees that, like I said, can really get to a big number quickly. If the district wins, on the other hand, it is not entitled to those same attorney's fees. So what is a by trustee area election system? Like we talked about, it's really the only safe harbor from one of these CVRA claims. Under a by trustee area election system, the district is divided into trustee areas. And a governing board member is then elected from each one of these trustee areas. In this case, it would be the district would be divided into 5 areas, and 1 trustee would be elected from each of those areas. They still would represent the entire district as a whole, but they would just be voted on from the registered voters in that particular district. So as part of this process, The law requires the district to hold 2 public hearings to solicit the sort of feedback that we're looking for tonight. The things that we're going to be looking at is comments for the composition of potential trustee voting areas. If it makes sense to divide along certain freeways or important landmarks that the community think is important. Doesn't look right. I think this says district demographics, but for some reason it's not showing. David, you want to? Yeah. Yes.
Good evening, and again, I represent the demographer here, and I would like to walk you through a few of these images and statements we have up here. So it's fairly simple math. The process that we go through, everything is based on the 2020 census. And there's little blocks you can kind of see in there, and those are census blocks. If you take, again, you were going to divide into 5 areas, the 56,520, which is the number of people, again, not voting age, all people, all ages, within your district boundaries. You divide it by 5, you get the 11,304. So first and foremost, as a demographer, I'm going to start with making these clusters, 5 clusters, if you will, and trying to get numbers as close as possible to that number. Give or take, we do have some variance. We'll talk about a little bit later, but that's our goal. That when all is done, the areas are roughly about that number. And there's 635 of those little census blocks. So those are the areas we kind of move around and maybe we'll give them different colors or numbers or whatnot. And that's the process that we'll go through once we finish the second of these meetings. Okay. And you want to?
Sure. I'll jump in. So as David was saying, these are kind of the overall numbers based on census data. And that's really what we look at in terms of dividing the actual numbers of the district. The difference between the largest and smallest trustee areas is there's allowed to be a 10% maximum variance, which means in this case, that would be 1,130 people between the largest and the smallest. The census blocks will vary significantly in size and shape. I think we saw that on the map. Some look like really good rectangles and some not so much. Census blocks are not allowed to be split. So that's really where the magic happens with David, is he's capturing all of these different populations based on those census blocks. Some are bigger, some are smaller, and once we have the maps in front of us at the third of these public hearings, you'll be able to see that those 5 different trustee areas sometimes have some odd shapes. But the reason why is because those census blocks are shaped weirdly in some instances. Right? Let me see if I can fix this.
You may have a return underneath.
Oh, that's not good. Well, I think we'll just move forward.
All right, so the map is the exact same map on the first slide, but well, this is a breakdown of, by the census, again, that number 56,520, see in the upper right corner, and the breakdown by these groups here. The Hispanic Latino is almost exactly 2/3 of your district. And then these are the other ones. The next largest group would be Asian and whatnot. So you also, what I didn't really explain on the map is based more or less on the density you see of your population. So it's not really tied to on the next slide, you'll see more tied to the race, but that's more the concentration. The darker areas are the more dense or populated areas. So you can kind of see the reddish and then the orange and so on. That kind of shows you with the legend up there, kind of where the concentration of your people are. Remember, these are all ages, all people. This one, the map is more reflective of, we focused on it. Again, it would say in the title, so that's why I have to explain it this way. This is based on the Hispanic Latino distribution. Okay. So again, you can kind of see where their higher concentrations are in the district. Again, this is not doing any work on, this is data strictly on what was in the census as of 2020. And but this also, the breakdown on here, I should say, this is that you'll see a thing, it didn't say on the title, CVAP, CVAP, Citizen, Citizen Voting Age Population, okay? It's a subset. It's not what we necessarily use as our criteria, but after we've created a scenario that has a well-balanced 5 areas, then we can do what we'll call it, say, a deeper dive and see how the voting age population, which you see the number is a smaller number, 37,882. That's a subset of the other. And this is the breakdown. You still see the predominant race is Hispanic, Latino. Instead of 66%, it's now 56%. And then Asian, I think, is about the same and whatnot. But that's another way that we look at how those areas look that we create. And of course, all this is vetted through the law firm. They know the law better than we do. I'm doing the math and the pictures, and they check it against the law to make sure that it's compliant. And then this is the next largest, this is the Asian. I don't know why the header works now on this one. But it's again that we call the CVAP, Citizen Voting Age Population, for the Asian population. And you can kind of see how those are distributed. So we usually take at least the first 2 largest races and kind of show you how they are distributed. But again, we have done no maps yet, and we are not, I think, start the maps until after the second meeting. So I just want to be clear on that.
All right, so this is sort of the feedback that we're looking for at this and the next public hearing. I would like to keep neighborhood X together and neighborhood Y together for whatever reason you think is important. I took a look at the district's overall map and saw maybe dividing along Interstate 5, the 805, the 54, Highland Ave, Division Street, National City Boulevard, Euclid Ave. These seem like natural barriers to me, but I want to hear from the public of what you think might be good natural barriers to divide up the district. Maybe it seems like a good natural boundary. Maybe it makes sense geographically and important if you think these communities should be kept together. We'd like to know that. All right, so after the first 2 pre-map public hearings, we move into what's called the map drawing phase. That's where we're really going to put David and his firm to work, and they're going to produce at least 5 map scenarios. And then throughout that process, we're going to solicit more feedback after we have maps that are workable, and then maybe make tweaks to those maps and have another variation or 2 throughout the process. It's important to know that the demographer has to look at the 2020 census data and then use that CVAP data for the deeper dive that David was talking about. The law requires that the populations of the trustee areas be as equal as is practicable. And we're looking at people, not necessarily citizens. The election code also states again that the trustee areas shall be as nearly equal in population. There is a certain amount of variation that has come out of court cases, and that's up to 10% between the largest and smallest trustee areas. There's a number of criteria that the demographer must consider and that we must look at to make sure that the maps are compliant with. First is, of course, compliance with the US Constitution, compliance with the California Constitution, and then highlighted here is something that we're going to hear a lot throughout this process is the population balance. We're going to get a lot of questions in the future about why can't we move this little census block into this area? Well, that's because there's a lot of people in that particular census block. And if we move that over, that might mess up the population balance. And also, we must make sure that the maps comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act. In that, they must determine whether it is possible for an election district in any one of those trustee areas to have a majority population from a protected class. In this district, that's going to be relatively easy because a protected class is a majority of the overall population. So we think that it won't, I think David's taken a look and it won't be, it'll be possible, it won't be an issue. Creating at least one, there's likely going to be multiple. We also took a look at that same process for the Asian population, and it wasn't possible to create a majority Asian district. All right, looking at more criteria, and this is in descending order of importance based on the law. Of course, the trustee areas must be contiguous. That means you can't have part of an area on one side of the map and part of an area on the other side of the map. It needs to be together to form a shape. Looking at local neighborhoods and communities of interest, and that's where we're asking members of the public to let us know what communities of interest should be kept together. Looking at designated places by the city or by the census. Natural or artificial boundaries that maybe don't show up on the maps that we're looking at. Looking at geographical compactness. Other criteria for consideration, other local interests that we don't know that we'd like to know. And it's important to know that now in this process, it's explicitly forbid to draw the map boundaries to favor or discriminate against an incumbent political candidate or political party. So really, we're not supposed to look at if this helps any member of the board or hurts any member of the board. Final thoughts? Oftentimes we get the question of how does this impact school attendance boundaries? Or how does this change the overall boundaries of the district? It doesn't. All this is doing is changing the way in which board members are elected. It does not change how the school district is governed. Each board member, regardless of the trustee area that they're in, still owes a fiduciary duty to the entire district. And it's important to remember that it's still one district after this process with common goals and common challenges. Looking at the schedule, we're here at the first gray box, which is pre-map public hearing 1. The second one will be on April 9th. And then after the April 9th meeting, that's when we'll start getting these draft map options. Those will be released in advance of the April 23rd date. We'll solicit more feedback at that public hearing. And if necessary, create additional map options. Same thing with the May 14th date. And then the May 28th date is the last public hearing. But also there'll be a second item, which is the map adoption on the same night. So that's how the process works. We're happy to answer any questions about that. And we'll turn it over to the public hearing.
Trustee Sarmiento.
Yes, I had a question about the map itself. It was very hard to read the street names on there, so it's hard for me to grasp an idea as to what's going where. Are we going to have a more detailed map?
Definitely.
To look at later on?
Yes, there will be a more detailed map. We could produce giant blow-ups and bring them into the room for once the maps are actually developed. There's plenty of options. Sometimes they ask that we create an interactive map that goes on the district's website so that you can zoom in and take a look at it that way. There's plenty of options that we can.
We do have some public speakers. Okay, as part of this public hearing, members of the public may submit comments on the establishment of voting area boundaries for the new trustee voting areas that will be established as part of the district's transition from an at-large election system to a by-trustee area election system. Speakers will be given 3 minutes to make comments on this matter and this matter only. At this point, we have received received cards from 2 people who wish to address this subject during the public hearing. Any other? Okay, just making sure. So, Berto Lopez.
Just one caution, let the process work. I was involved in the same process when I was on Sweetwater School Board. And as long as you make the process work, it can work. You have to do a lot of investigation, a lot of inquiry. But the worst thing you can do is adopt a boundary that is going to be convenient for you as a board member. So stay away from that. The other thing that I wanted to say, and I do want to talk to Ms. Cindy Lopez. Just because of what Mr. Nieto said. You have a spokesperson in this district, and that is the superintendent. That's the only employee that you have. You're not representing the 5 people here. You're only representing yourself. So I'm going to caution you once more, because it's been done before. You're not the spokesperson for this district. And just like Mr. Nieto said, you deleted a couple of messages. You deleted my message, and just want you to know you have the attorneys, I believe, here. That's against the law because you are a board member. You are a public elected official. I believe that you need to have a little bit more experience before you make comments like this because it creates a lot of chaos, creates a lot of confusion. Mr. Nieto was here also to tell you that. There were a lot of people that were asking a lot of questions. Unfortunately, they're not here. Maybe they'll come to the next meeting. But you as a board member, you only have one employee, and that's the superintendent. So caution, please, if you're gonna act on your own, do not put anything down that you are the National School Board, because you're not representing the other 5. Unless I'm wrong, people, you other board members, unless I'm wrong, but I've sat on 2 different boards, and when I spoke about what I had to say myself, not as a representative of any other district. So just please, because like I said, you create a lot of chaos and confusion. And I'll be coming back again if this happens. I've already did it once. I'm not leaving anywhere. I'm turning 71 years old, my birthday today, and I'm here because I care about the National School District community, even though I don't live here, but I was here for 40 years. And this is the community that I love, and I will stay and I will come back. Thank you so much.
Ed Nieto.
Just want to say that it's a good presentation. A lot of thoughts, a lot of information there, but I'm still gathering my thoughts. I'll have to come back for the second meeting because this is information. I do have, even at the second meeting, I'm wondering, why have 2 meetings? Why not have more? Why space them out a little bit more? Because this takes time to absorb. And here's my concern naturally is that seeing what happened in the districting in National City, first of all, it costs more money than we had expected for that districting. So I don't want to see the same thing that happened with the city happen here at the school district, thinking that you're avoiding a lawsuit and at the same time opening the door for bigger lawsuits later. I understand it's almost a money-driven thing here. You're trying to avoid lawsuits, and that's why you're being forced to make this decision here. But, there's unforeseen cost here, and I just want you to make sure, and I think he's already alluded to it. The last part there is you don't want this to be aligned with the political implications of who can facilitate the best political party here, That's something that you want to stay away from. And, if you start, once you start getting this information here, then, like what happened with the city, and it was just not one person, it was a whole series of people. They start monkeying around with, let's have a district budgeting, and let's have district this and have district that, and let's have a special interest drive this to facilitate our things. Let's have, people who work on the school board work at the city. I'm not saying that's legally wrong. I'm just saying that the perception, and perception seems to be a big word lately, but perception of not having a conflict of interest is not good for the public to hear. So that's my comments, but I have a lot more comments. But I find it amazing that only 11,306 people are amongst the 5 different areas, which is less than 2,000 people drive this. To me, with a city of 55,000 people, that seems like leveraging a small amount of people for representing a small area. So I don't even understand the representation part of this, but I understand that you're forced to make this because if somebody comes up and starts suing you, you're in a world of hurt. But if you don't do this, you'll be in a world of hurt too. Or if you do this, you'll be in a world of hurt if you don't do it right.
Yes, Trustee Lopez. Point of clarification, could you please explain the process, President Gates, on the purpose of the public hearing? I know the attorneys kind of explained the feedback that we're looking for, but could you explain the purpose of why we're having this, what the next one will look like, why we only have 2? I mean, they already shared it, but could you reiterate for the public?
And please correct me. Once this has started, we have a limited amount of time and there are strict steps that we are supposed to follow. And so in order to make sure that we are abiding by the timeframes that are set out for us, that includes a pretty rapid move forward and an intentional move forward. We can't drag our feet. Once the process is started, it must move. And if it's started by someone other than us, it moves even faster. And so part of the reason, and I will say this, part of the reason I brought this forward as a discussion piece or to the board, and then we brought it forward to vote, was because we are at the point where there are very few districts that have not done this. And there are people out there essentially cherry picking the districts that have not, which includes fees that we must pay to their attorneys once something has been started, fees that we don't want to have to pay extra as a penalty for. We are trying to be responsible with the monies allocated for our students. No attorney needs $30,000 from us to start with when we are trying to make sure that we aren't laying people off. And so that is part, like all of that is why we discussed it and decided that we would prefer to do this on, the vote went through, we would prefer to do this on our terms with our attorneys and with the space that us saying yes allows us, rather than somebody else saying, do it now and do it twice as fast. So as far as our meetings are being parsed out as we have been given guidance, and they are also being parsed out based on our current meeting schedule to try and meet the requirements that we have been given in this process.
That's exactly right. The 2 pre-map public hearings and the 3 post-map public hearings setup is specified in the elections code. So it's something that many districts have done and this district will continue to do.
And it is the law.
Yes.
That is the
correct.
other piece. Trustee Avalos.
As a board member that I started way back, and as a board member, I remember that our superintendent, Mr. Chris Carson, had brought it, Chris Barham, had brought it up about the divisions of the districts here in voting. But we were always in an agreement that we would wait until they said, you have to do it. As of I know that I know now, we never did get a letter to say, you're gonna have to do it. Now I was told, I believe by our President, Mrs. Gates, that if we didn't do it, we were gonna get fined the $30,000 anyway. Is that true?
So
now I would have preferred myself to be able to give a notice to us and say, you've got 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days, or whatever it may be, to start this process. And I think all board members should have been able to be able to give their suggestions or whatever it may be. Yes, I did vote no on it. I think I would have felt a lot better had we received a letter and saying you have this time to do it instead of doing it, but I'll repeat myself. My understanding is, our President Gay said, if we don't do it and we wait for them to do it, we're still gonna get fined $30,000. Is that correct?
So the way that it works is if a prospective plaintiff comes forward and an attorney sends the letter and then you make the transition, that's when they're entitled to the $30,000. Now that you have all decided to do this transition without any letter coming forward, there is no $30,000 expenditure that's going to go to an attorney and the prospective plaintiff.
So there was no limit of time that we had to do it, like we had to do it now, or could we have waited till next year, 2026, or another 6 months? Or?
The longer that you wait is giving the prospective plaintiffs an opportunity to send that letter. Because once you receive the letter, that's when you're now on notice. And if you make a transition after that point, then you do have to pay that $30,000. So if a letter came tomorrow and we haven't started the transition, then the district would be on the hook for the $30,000.
Trustee Sarmiento.
Yes, going along those same lines so we could have waited 2 weeks to the next board meeting, a month to the next board meeting, whatever. I'm very discouraged and disillusioned that this discussion was held and, okay, my fault for being sick. I missed the board meeting where it was discussed previously. I was out sick. I know Mrs. Avalos was out sick as well. I would have appreciated if the board had waited until the entire board was there, because I had a lot of questions and I shared them at our last board meeting, because, you know, I like to be apprised and know exactly what it is I'm supporting or not supporting. So I was very frustrated to know that it was proceeded and put on the agenda without having the benefit of the discussion. And that's not you, that's.
And unfortunately, once from the meeting that we had, one of the things that we were told was that we could not return to the discussion. We could not cycle around the discussion because it had already been held, and basically we start moving forward in a way that could at least be perceived as hashing out our vote behind closed doors, which we are not allowed to do.
But my point is not having the discussion at all. Knowing that you have 2 board members absent, could it have waited till the next meeting, which is only 2 weeks after?
I did not attend the agenda review as I am the board clerk. I wasn't feeling good, so I made a mistake on my calendar is what I did. And I did not come. But had I been there, I probably would have said for us to wait and see what we can possibly do without doing it so right away. And I agree with Mr. Sarmiento. We should have had all the board members being able to talk about it, discuss about it, and let us know what the procedure is going to be and how we were going to get fined and what is all this about. You know, but I did not attend the agenda review. And in fact, I even mentioned to Mrs. Gates, that's strange that when a board member is not here on time, oh, wait, make sure she's here. Is she on her way? Or she's coming. Nobody called me and said, hey, you're on your way to the agenda? Neither Mrs. Gates or our Vice Superintendent, Mrs. Brady. So I was a little upset about it because I only live a few blocks from here. But if somebody else is a little late, right away they're on their phone. Hey, are you on your way? Are you coming? Are you almost here? Oh yeah, she's on her way. So I was a little disappointed in how they did it. Because like I said, had I been on the agenda review, I would have definitely given my suggestions or however I felt about it. And that's why I voted no. I would still vote no. Anyway, thank you.
And I will remind you that I was coming off a substantial flu that I had been kneeling over a toilet for 2 days. And so I have already apologized for not calling you, but I will also say that both of us are wrong. We talked about it, and everything that I had said in the meeting was factual. Nothing that I had said was incorrect. And I said that all of that here. It was voted upon by the board. It was a 3-2 vote. Trustee Benford has an email.
Okay, I just wanted to reiterate what Mrs. Avalos had mentioned in the beginning. Comment is that this was brought up when Chris Zorum was superintendent, so this is not something that was new. So this is from years ago that this is something that was coming down. So we knew as board members that this is something that we would potentially have to be voting on. So this is not anything that's a surprise to us. Whether we were missing a board meeting, late to the meeting, as board members, we should have prepared ourselves. So as our fiduciary responsibility, we had to make a decision. I personally am not in agreement because we are such a small district. However, it is our responsibility to abide by the law, and we do have to move forward. We can stretch our arms out, and we're going to touch boundaries. So we have to do what we have to do. I'm a law-abiding person, and I have to go with what we have to do. I'm not going to take from our kids, so I'm not going to wait until I receive a letter. So if we're trying to cut, I'm not going to wait until I receive a letter. So we have to do what we have to do. I understand what City Council went through. We're not splitting the budget. So Mr. Nieto, I understand what your concern is. We don't have individual budgets.
So we're not gonna have to worry about that. We will support the entire district. You have my word, you have my commitment. It's where I live is not who I represent. I represent the entire district. Just because I went to school at Olivewood is not who I'm only gonna represent. I can assure you, and I will promise you that. So I understand this is not an easy subject to talk about, but unfortunately, we have our hand forced in this. So we have to move forward. It's a very difficult thing that we have to do. But this is something that we have been pushing along. But it's just something that we don't have a choice. Like what was previously mentioned by President Gates, is there are not very many districts left. They are going to be cherry picking. It's basically, they're just going to do a search of how many are left. And there are attorneys out there just waiting to see how many are left to make a quick buck. And we do not want it to be where it's affecting our children. $30,000 to some people may not seem a lot, but when it affects our kids, it absolutely is a lot. And it's not going to be on my conscience. I'm sorry. So again, I personally don't agree with it, but I have to do the right thing for our kids. I have to show my face to my families to say, I did the right thing for my kids, my families, and my community. To know that I did not take those $30,000 away from our kids. And that's why I voted for it. Because once again, I didn't agree with districting because it's a misrepresentation of what we're doing. It's not the fact that we're dividing up or uniting, but just having to have different areas. So please don't misrepresent what we're trying to do. We just have to do the right thing per the law. So please understand that.
Trustee Lopez. Yes, thank you. I think having heard the public comments and their presentation, I think this is a good learning point to what to do for the second hearing, to have more input on the actual boundaries, what residents want to see in terms of the maps, because we need that input and the input can't really come from us. So I think going back to Dr. Brady, you are the spokesperson, so I'm sure you will send out another communication to our families and parents, and we appreciate for that. And also our responsibility as well as trustees is to also share that information and say, hey, we have this coming up, please come and share it here. Yes, we love social media, but social media is not the place for dialogue. We want you to come here to hear you officially, to have the demographer here, our attorneys, so they can make those recommendations. And I think that's very important to remember, that it's an outlet, but not the forum. The forum is here. This is the forum that we wish all those people who comment would have come. And our next one is April 9th. So we want to see you here. We want to hear from you. This is what it is, a public hearing. I'm not the only person who's going to ask for feedback. All of us ask for feedback, and we bring it here for this very purpose. So it's great to see comments on social media, but we want to see your face. We want to hear you. Oh, I also want President Gates for you to speak on serial meetings on social media, if you're able to. Is that the time? Thank you.
Okay. We'll tag to Dr. Brady for a moment, then Trustee Sarmiento, then I'll speak to serial meetings.
I almost became elevated to a trustee. Did you hear that? I just wanted to add to what Trustee Lopez is saying, and to let everybody who's watching know that every single thing that we are doing in terms of this process is on our website. Under the board tab, there's a special tab that is, we're loading up every document. This presentation is available outside on the table, but also, like Trustee Sarmiento said, it's kind of small to see. So it will be tomorrow morning loaded onto that website page, and you can zoom in. And as things come through these public hearings for people who can't come, that are at home, those will all be on that website. The timeline is on there. Frequently asked questions are on there. If we get questions through this process and we provide answers, we'll put those on there. And for those who aren't looking under the board tab to find that, on the front landing page, you don't have to scroll down very far. It says trustee area transition. And so it's in big red letters. You click on that and that'll bring you to a direct link to that page. So you don't have to search around on our website, but that'll be there. And we will continue to push things out. We'll do social media and then you can repost those as well.
Trustee Sarmiento.
Yeah, just for clarification's sake, I would just like to emphasize the fact that I never support the idea of paying $30,000 in fines. I simply stated that could you have waited 2 weeks till the next meeting to have this discussion when all board members are present? Because if you think about it, we're a team. We govern as a team. We are a governance team. And it saddens me to think that this was pushed ahead without 2 out of the 5 board members present. Just my own opinion. Also, I never said that I wouldn't support district elections. I just wanted my questions answered. I just wanted an opinion about the whole thing, that's all. So yeah, I know there is the fines involved, and I know, and plus, if we didn't get a letter forcing us to do this, what difference would 2 weeks have meant? If we got a letter during those 2 weeks, okay, we still would have complied during the period of time when we were required to comply, so that we wouldn't have to pay that $30,000 fine. So I think all of that is a moot point. The fact is, we're all here for kids. We all care about our children, our grandchildren, great-grandchildren. We want to do what's best for the kids, and we have been doing an admirable job of it up until now. And I just want us to continue to do that. That's all I have.
As for serial meetings, and I am going to cheat just for clarification. That's what the internet is for. Under the Ralph M. Brown Act, serial meetings are prohibited. They involve a majority of a legislative body's members engaging in private communications to develop a collective agreement on an action, effectively circumventing open meeting requirements. Serial meetings are a series of private communications, be they email, phone calls, personal meetings, texts, between members of a legislative body that when considered as a whole, involve a majority of the body. And so it's it doesn't mean that we all have to be in the same place at the same time. It can be that we are talking about the same topic at different times, but we have done it with more than just one person. So if I have the conversation with Trustee Avalos, and then I also have a conversation with Trustee Bettencourt Castaneda, it becomes a serial meeting even though I have not met with them at the same time. Or if I have the meeting with Trustee Avalos, she then has the meeting with Trustee Bettencourt Castaneda. It's still a serial meeting because we are still hitting too many of us at the same time. So when it comes down to, like, for instance, things on social media, we are encouraged not to respond to anybody's anything when it comes to this board, because even an emoji, even a smiley face could be perceived as, I agreed with Trustee Lopez, and now Trustee Sarmiento has agreed with her, and now everybody thinks that we are voting, or that we have had, like, even that can be perceived as a discussion.
That's why I'm not her friend, by the way. Never will be.
Why we watch our social media, but
the majority.
the serial meeting does not have to be us in the same place. And so that is one of those things that, like, we have to learn and we've had to figure out. And it's also why when we go to LCAP meetings, we try to spread ourselves out. If we are at a celebration breakfast for the district, we try not to be in the same place so that it is not perceived that we are standing around talking together about district business, because everything is supposed to be, unless of course it's closed and is covered by privacy protections, closed session. Otherwise, everything's supposed to be in front of you. And so, anyway. Do you have anything more?
That's it from us.
Okay.
we have anything more? All right. Thank you for all your comments. The public hearing to receive public testimony concerning the composition of potential trustee voting areas is now closed. Again, our next meeting with regard to this will be held on April 9th, 2025. We will most likely do something similar to tonight. We took a look at the amount of time it normally takes for our presentations at the beginning so that we can honor our children and their families and allow them to present first so that children can get home and that we respect their time. So we will be looking again and probably, possibly, maybe, I don't want to, having a similar 7 o'clock call time for the meeting, but that will be something we will discuss and post. So just so everyone knows. Thank you very much. Thank you. Item 10 is educational services. Item 10A, a report on Better Together Community. Thank you to everyone who stayed. Dr. Kraft, will you go ahead and share your report?
Sure. In the fall, I brought to the board, I believe it was a fall meeting, sorry, I don't have the exact board meeting date. But the state community schools grants needs assessment, grant funding that we received for National School District. The intent behind this funding was to be expensed on really doing a comprehensive look at the community and what the community needs. We discussed with the board the idea of bringing an outside agency to conduct this so that we could really get a comprehensive understanding.
I'm on.
Dr. Daly, hang on a second.
Yeah, good evening, everybody.
Anyways, the board approved it.
Can you all hear me okay?
Anybody want to?
Oh, ours here in musicians.
Hello.
He's a brilliant professor.
Hold on just a second, Dr. Daly. You should be able to.
Oh, great. I can do an interpretive dance while I wait if you like me to.
He focuses a lot on social connections. Anyways, so we did have the ability to partner with UCSD Create and the Learner Center Collaborative and a joint venture in which they began really looking and canvassing our community to find out what are the needs that, given the community schools framework, that we would need to put in place to serve our community. We don't have any community grants from the state. Ms. Castaneda did put the applications in with principals to see if that will be funded this year. We're not sure at this point, but we have put in for applications. We are in receipt of two of our schools receiving federal community grants, and so far those funds are going to continue. So with that, I would like to bring up Dave Troutman, and will you be joining?
I'm just gonna be here for support.
Okay, and I'll let Dave introduce the team, and the board did receive the video, and I believe that video is also on our website for public viewing, giving a more comprehensive look on the work that they've been doing over several months, but they'll give you a brief. So go ahead, Dave, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good evening, President Gates, trustees, Dr. Brady, executive cabinet, and the NSD community. I'm joined here, as we mentioned, by Dr. Alan Daly from the University of California, San Diego, and Dr. Katie Martin from the Learner Center Collaborative. I am Dave Troutman. I am a doctoral candidate at UCSD. As Dr. Kraft mentioned, we have a video that goes more in depth into the work. Right now, I'm going to be sharing a higher level overview. Dr. Daly is going to be hidden as I open this slideshow. So just imagine he's there like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain.
This is This is what happens with all doctoral students. You raise them and then they hide you.
So as Dr. Kraft mentioned, the purpose of what we're calling the Better Together Project, which is really a collaboration between the Learner Center Collaborative, the University of California, San Diego, and the National School District, is to conduct a systematic needs and assets assessment in the National School District community. And it is oriented around the 4 pillars of community schools, and I'll go into more depth on what those are momentarily. And our goal is to accomplish this not just through partnership, but personalization, as well as valid and reliable instruments that can produce actionable data. I want to emphasize here part of the personalization that has been shared with us, or the desire that's been shared with us by the board members and by the executive cabinet. Some priorities that we took into account here. So the first is intentionally involving and seeking out diverse stakeholders. The second is providing actionable insight that's beneficial to the district as a whole, not just potential community schools. And the last is going beyond just sort of a technical list of resources and assets, and also tapping into relational aspects that strongly impact the success of any initiative in schools. What? Okay. All right. So the 4 pillars of the community schools are family and community engagement, collaborative leadership and practices, integrated student supports, and expanded and enriched learning time and opportunities. So again, our report and our investigation is oriented around these 4 pillars, and we'll be presenting in alignment with these. And the hope is that the data is informative at the site and district level for moving forward for everyone. Quick overview of the timeline. As was mentioned, we started in July and August with community listening, talking to stakeholders at various sites, including families, staff members. We spoke with board members and the cabinet. We have deployed survey instruments, and today the report is going to be focused on the results from the survey in particular. But we will be continuing to engage in deeper qualitative work to better understand the patterns and trends that we saw in the quantitative data, and we'll be providing final reports towards the end of the year. Quick overview of the data collection. So I'm going to start with the response rates. So we had an 80% response rate from certificated staff, 31% response rate from classified staff, 18% response rate from families, and 88% response rate from administrators or leaders, formal leadership roles. I'm going to also note that the families is actually numerically, while it looks percentage-wise to be the smallest, numerically is the largest group. It represents the families of 690 students in the National School District community. And when we look at the demographics, it is broadly reflective of the diversity we would expect to see in national. So in terms of the preliminary reports, I'm going to start with orienting you to the various levels of data that we have. And today we're really going to be focused on that high level direction setting. We go a little bit more into the weeds in the video, and then in the final report, we'll have that granular data available. So first, the report is oriented around the 4 community school pillars. That is broken down into individual domains for which we provide data. Some of those domains are broken down further into constructs. And then for everything, we have individual item level data. And today, again, we're going to be focusing on this high level data to provide some insight on direction setting. I will note that some of the data we're going to be providing comes from our quantitative scales, and some comes from open responses qualitative data, particularly around expanded learning time and opportunities. I'm going to jump back to standard deviation in a moment. I just want folks to know that when we get to standard deviation, I'm going to give a brief explanation so that we can all be on the same page. So first, we're going to talk about the pillar family and community engagement. Within that, we have 4 domains. I'm going to go 2 by 2. So we have, and we're going to present a number of graphs. I want to emphasize that the scale we have goes from strongly disagree to strongly agree, and that's also has a number from either 1 to 6. And we also have at the bottom side, we'll see the domains. So that's how we've broken apart these pillars. And then we are color-coded by the stakeholder group that responded. 4 and rising is something I want to encourage you to look for. So 4 means an average score at or above 4 means that it is in the agreement territory. And what we want to do is we want to recognize that as an asset and also acknowledge that there's room for continued growth in these areas. So the first two domains of family and community outreach are family involvement. That's the extent to which families are involved in and out of school, or perceived by stakeholders to be involved in and out of school, and family outreach. This one was a domain specifically for families to understand the extent to which they experience communication and connection with staff. So we can see in family involvement, and I'll just highlight the colors. It goes on the left-hand side from certificated to site classified staff to families to administrators, getting progressively darker. We see every item here is, or every average here is above a 4, and there is some variation between the stakeholder groups on perceptions of family involvement. We see family outreach has an average score of 4.8. And I've put an asterisk or a star, not an asterisk, to indicate that there's a standard deviation at or above 1. When I talk about at or above 1, I'm meaning 1, 1.1, 1.2. There's not like a tremendous variation in terms of how far above 1 we're going when we indicate this. This is a general rule of thumb, and the reason we do this is that the standard deviation in a normal distribution means that on either side, within 1 standard deviation, whatever that number is, 68% of responses should fall, with the rest going progressively out 95% and then 99.7%. And so what we want to tune into is that the standard deviation indicates where the majority of responses are falling. So when we go back here, what's significant about the number 1 is that that can show that there's a wider spread of responses indicating some variation, particularly in the experiences of stakeholders within this group. So we want to just tune into that as a rule of thumb. And then we know that when it goes, it can go below the agreement territory or far above. The second, and I'm going to display all 4 next to each other momentarily, the second set of domains within family and community engagement is school climate and school program. School climate is the overall sense of climate at school sites and departments, and the school program is families' perception of the academic and curricular program at school. I'll note that the star in school climate is above the families, so we see not a ton of variation in terms of different perceptions of school climate. We do see that within that stakeholder group, there is some variation. We also see that the school climate or school program is also quite high among families. I'm going to put these all next to each other and provide an opportunity for clarifying questions. We'll also stop at the end, so you can choose whether you want to ask something now or wait till the end after we've reviewed the other 3 domains. I'll jump now, and again, we can pause at any moment for questions into collaborative leadership and practices. So this is 3 domains that we're looking at, and I'm going to go through each one by one. So the first one is belonging. We have it among employees of the school district, so certificated, site classified, displayed here, and administrators. And belonging is the extent to which individuals perceive themselves to be valued members of the community. This is something that has stood out in many of our conversations with informal and formal with stakeholders, is that there is a strong sense of community in the national school district and a strong sense of history as well. We see relatively high levels of agreement, so averages at or above 5. There's no stars here, so the standard deviation is less than 1. We can, when there's not a star, you can assume that the standard deviation is less than 1. That there's a strong sense of belonging. We're way above 4, and yeah, you can see that pretty homogeneous across these groups. Collective involvement is the next domain. This is the extent to which individuals feel like they are actively engaged in shared decision-making. We see much more variation both between stakeholder groups, and then I will note that the certificated staff has a standard deviation. I believe for this one it is exactly at 1, so there's some more variation in individual experiences or a broader spread of responses for this item, or for this collection of items. And lastly, independence measures the extent to which individuals both feel free to express their ideas, but also feel confident in the ability to direct their work in the way that they feel is best. And we see, again, some variation here. We also see that it is between stakeholder groups, but less variation within each stakeholder group. I'm going to have these side by side displayed for you so you can see, and I'll provide opportunities for questions now. We can also just revisit at the end.
I have a
Good question. Is this, at two school sites or one?
Sorry, this is all school sites.
All
So this
schools.
is, so the data for the certificated staff here is going to represent 80% of certificated staff across the district. Next, we'll look at integrated student supports. Our approach here was really explicitly targeted not just at understanding the supports that are available to students, but also the beliefs and motivations that guide how these supports are deployed. Again, looking at making sure that we're attending to these relational components that impact schools and communities. So for this, we have a scale called diverse communities, and this is really the extent to which folks are approaching their work with an asset-based lens. We see that it is really high in National School District, both among certificated staff. So we looked at the folks who are making decisions about deploying resources and supports to students in the context of the school day, also very high among administrators. I'll note again that the standard deviation here is less than 1. Additionally, we have themes from open responses. Families were asked what, if anything, gets in the way of their child's success at school. There was the most common response was expressing a desire for tutoring and support for students, more support for students in class to meet their individual academic learning and language needs. There were also comments about student behaviors and questions with a number of trained adults to supervise outside of class. So we see that there's both the academic component and then the social emotional component. Certificated staff were also asked the same question. Responses here focus more on the need for supports around individual or student and family issues, either needs to access basic needs and services, opportunities for parental involvement because of workload, mental health challenges, various challenges in the home environment, as well as potential challenges with English proficiency. I'll pause for questions and we'll jump into expanded learning time. So expanded.
Dr. Kress?
Yeah.
Did you have, with integrated student supports, did you only have data for certificated administration? Did you not have it for family?
For integrated student supports, the family, rather than giving them a scale about how they would deploy things, we did the qualitative questions. So we have 2 sets of questions that speak to this for all stakeholder groups. We shared 2 that had prominent themes that we wanted to share back. We'll obviously provide more detail in our final report. So every stakeholder group was asked about what supports were necessary in school, what were the barriers to success in school that needed to be addressed, and also what supports before, during, or after school were needed. And so then we collect that. Again, part of it is to limit the number of scale items that we're asking families to complete to make sure that we're getting as high a response rate as possible. And the second piece was to make sure that we are capturing things that might not show up in a validated scale because of the unique needs experienced by individuals in the national community.
I do have a question.
Please.
The diverse communities question.
Yeah.
Because you said that it was with regard to those deploying resources. I'm curious because on the one hand, yes, we will do our best to give everything that we have our hands on. But the question is, do we feel like we have our hands on enough things to deploy? And so, where is that question? Because if we don't have more assets, if we don't have more resources, if we don't have the appropriate assets or resources, we can want to have an asset and justice-based lens and it does little to no good if we don't have the things to help provide or connect. So I'm wondering, I realize this is more of a first look.
Yeah.
But I guess my follow-up is, do we know and have them? Do we know what they are, what our assets are? Do we have them to give? And where that falls into asking this kind of a question, because I might feel like I'm doing the best for my group of students, but my students need more than what I have.
Absolutely. I can speak at a high level to this, just off the top of my head. Dr. Brady, did you want to comment? Okay, so it's a brilliant question and I really appreciate it. So one of the reasons that we are doing the investigation in the way we do with a mixed methods where we have opportunity for these quantitative scales as well as the qualitative item response and qualitative follow-up is to provide a really robust set of data around these issues. So the quantitative scale is an important part, but it doesn't speak to everything, right? Like it measures this, like, are we approaching this in a way that is really valuing the assets that our students and families are bringing to school? The open response questions are an opportunity to articulate needs that have not been addressed. And during our focused qualitative interviews, we have the opportunity, one, to dig deeper about some of that disconnect that I think you're mentioning here. And two, there is broad awareness, or let me restate that. There are a number of really solidified partnerships that National School District has with external agencies to provide resources and support. And I think what you're talking to, President Gates, is an important thing that I want to acknowledge, that schools, districts, and teachers are often tasked, in many cases unfairly, with solving all of society's problems. And I think particularly in the climate we're in, that feeling is particularly acute, the feeling of pressure and the feeling of blame that sometimes folks are experiencing. And so we want to make sure that we are doing those three things that I tried to mention, not in the best order, but understanding core guiding beliefs, understanding articulated needs, and then mapping those on to available resources that are in the community. So making sure we have a really robust picture rather than relying on just one piece of data to guide that. Hopefully that clarified your question, or hopefully that. Do you have a follow-up question to that?
Go, Dr. Brady.
Can you reiterate what these results are measuring? Are they measuring the assets that we give kids or the asset mindset that we see students and families as assets?
The scale measures the mindset that we have. The open response questions are capturing the needs that we have identified, and then the available community partners represent the possible solutions, possible sets of resources that can be deployed. So we want to, again, combine our knowledge of all three of those elements. It is not helpful to have a really great mindset and no resources. It's also not, sorry, I shouldn't say that in a evaluative way. I'm not going to say great. It is not helpful to have an asset-based mindset and no assets to deploy. It is also, if we are approaching our work with a level of blame, even if we have a bunch of resources, there's a disconnect there, so we might not be deploying those resources in the best way. And one of the strengths of National School District is that there's a really strong commitment to serving communities from a lens of compassion and care and valuing them.
Thank
you. With that, I'm going to jump to expanded learning time and opportunities. So again, I'm sharing some themes from particular stakeholder groups. We have more data. I'm keeping us at the high level here. So families were asked what support before, during, or after school does your family need to help your child be successful at school? Many folks spoke to the REACH program and articulated that it was working very well for them. There were some mixed feelings on the extent to which homework support was helpful or adequate. Many people also indicated that were not participating in REACH that they had trouble accessing it, either because they were on a wait list or because the requirements were too restrictive for their family's particular needs in terms of time commitment. There was also an expressed desire for a variety of enrichment opportunities at school to really tap into the diverse interests that students and families have. There were requests for regular programming for families, such as offering support with English, parenting classes, and how to help with homework. And there was also a desire for increased communication about students' academic progress. We know that classified staff, in particular in National School District, have a really strong connection to the community. There's a lot of longevity among both certificated and classified staff. And that these folks also provide a really unique lens into the experience of the school district as it relates to communities. They were also asked this question, and they overwhelmingly spoke to a need for increased communication and coordination between the school and family, to ensure that there's consistency and coherence across home and school. So they really emphasize this need for partnership, continued partnership. I'm going to jump briefly into next steps, and then I'll open it for more questions so you know what's coming. One aspect of our work is more focused qualitative data collection. So we did some early qualitative data collection to understand what we should be measuring in relation to the pillars. We then did our survey, which included some qualitative questions, but now the next step is more focused qualitative data collection with focus groups to better dig into the interesting patterns, trends, and questions that emerged as we're looking at the data. We are going to continue to engage in sharing back emerging results as they're developing, as we're analyzing, and then we will be, of course, preparing final reports that synthesizes all of this information for you.
Dr. Kraft, I see your light. Go for it.
So Dave, I just want to make sure and summarize, because I know that we do have a much more extensive going deeper into the data, the video, but in terms of the 4 pillars, which was the request for the analysis, the mindset, the data that you're showing is that there is a coherence and a belief, if correct me if I'm wrong, that what we currently have in place is seen as positive. Is that correct?
With regard to which domain?
Well, you went through several, and so I wanted you to kind of summarize, like in terms of the asset mindset, just because I thought it was important.
So yeah, the asset mindset is, I believe for certificated staff was a 4.9, and for administrators was a 5.3 on average. The standard deviation was less than 1, so that means that we have 68% we know is in that, plus the other 30% above that. So we know that the majority of responses fall in the agree territory. And so that does indicate that there's broad consensus, obviously with some variation that we would expect in any community, around how we think about students and communities, or how certificated and staff and administrators think about students and communities.
And then additionally, just because I wanted to provide clarity around the limitations, and hopefully parents are listening, and we will reiterate that. Prior to receiving the ELOP funds, the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program funds, we were receiving funding for after school under the ACES funds. And the ACES funds did require limitations to the amount of students that could be put into the programs before school and after school. And that number set was established when we received the grant through the county many years ago, probably 2 decades ago. And so we were stuck within that window. It also did not cover intercession in summer funding with the ACES grant. However, now with the ELOP funds, we do have funding to expand the programming and to offer intercession in summer. There was a perception that the ACES funds previously the students had to stay a certain amount, but we began to question that because the main grantee is the San Diego County Office of Ed, and questioned where that came out in the state grant because it's not present there. And we found that that was kind of a directive coming out of the county to kind of build more coherence so that it wasn't just a drop-in, drop-out program. So we provided more flexibility, but primarily if you have flexibility, we do ask that you stay within an hour simply to avoid that same issue. But we work really closely, and most parents who need that flexibility leave probably within 90 minutes, because by the time the kids get there, have their snack, and then engage in an activity, it's within that time frame. So I'm hoping that parents are hearing this, and we encourage you to reach out to your site and to sign up for the program. We could take as many kids as we can get staff for, and so it would be great for us to plan. And I'm doing a sales pitch right now.
Sorry, Trustee Ben Castaneda.
thank you for clarifying that. I did have that marked on mine to ask you later. I didn't realize we were gonna talk about that, but because that was something that, parents did, I know, complain in the past when my kids were, in school, and I felt like I was a neglectful parent as I was at home and they were there, and all because they wanted to participate in the sports and so on. So, thank you for clarifying that to the parents that would like to, have their children attend. And so there is no wait list, as you just clarified. So maybe we need to update and maybe reach out to some families that maybe are misinformed. Maybe send out a newsletter to our families to kind of give them an update, so that if they're giving us that in feedback, they're not getting the information. So that's something that maybe we can do as a district. So, thank you.
Trustee Lopez.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dave, for presenting. There's no other person better to do this job for our district. So I'm very honored to see you here presenting and working with our families, our staff, our admin, everyone. We're so grateful for you and your team as well. So I'm so proud of you. Just knowing your trajectory and just having you here. So could you further explain what are the next steps after this, after today? Is there some kind of report, or what does that work look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So our next step is to do the focused qualitative data collection serves a few different purposes. So one, it is to clarify interesting patterns or trends. As President Gates mentioned earlier, there is a real need to have multiple data points and also to triangulate data. So if we rely too much on one single data point, we run the risk of misinterpretation. And so we really want to check those interpretations and make sure that we're looking at the whole picture. So one part of that is really making the data more robust and making sure that we're capturing those experiences. Another aspect of that focused qualitative data collection is to make sure that we're not missing anybody, and so providing more targeted outreach for any groups that we feel are not represented in the quantitative data sufficiently with the data that we have. So as we're doing that, I mean, both sets of analyses take a long time. Qualitative data analysis is generally labor intensive in terms of making sure that you're reading and rereading and checking and validating and reaching back out. So we are at the brink of engaging in that process and making sure that we're also responsive to questions that emerge in this space as well, so that we're not dropping the ball on items that are particularly of interest to you all. The final reports are expected in May and June, so that we'll be working with the executive cabinet to make sure that we are sharing those in a timely way. And so, ongoing, and then we can continue to share as necessary. We're happy to come back at any point to present to the board on where we are at in our process. Thank you, Ms. Lopez.
Dr. Kraft.
And Dave, one of the things that we discussed, and Dr. Daly is up here. Dr. Daly's area of focus is social network theory. And it's very powerful because we do exist in a social network within schools. And one of the aspects that we ask them to look is not just in terms of things, resources, but also we understand the importance of having a collective mindset, a collective vision of schooling, and where does it lead and what is its value. And so one of the aspects that I did ask that they kind of tease out during this piece would be hope, and these components that will often allow you to persevere and move forward. And what we know that that grit, that hope, those components that we know to help move individuals into success in life, whether it's work or life in general. How are we doing that? Because that does transmit as kind of this subliminal kind of curriculum and teachings that happen in school, and we want to ensure that that exists within our schools when they do leave us, and so that our kids can continue to pursue life dreams, even though they leave us in 6th grade. And those things can be developed very young and old. And so that was one that I was hoping maybe we could speak a little bit to that. I don't know about if Dr. Daly or Dave would do it, but just kind of explain to the board a little bit around that.
Dr. Daly, you can't see me looking at you, but it looks like you have a response ready there.
Sure. First of all, I'd like to ask Dr. Kraft just to follow us around and talk about our work because it sounded fantastic. So thanks for doing that.
No worries.
Yeah, and also on behalf of the rest of our team, I also wanted to thank all of you board members and executive board, executive cabinet. You've just been amazing partners with us too, and this good work doesn't get done without really good partnerships. So thanks to all of you, and of course to our great partners at LCC too. That's how all this happens. So while you're hearing from Dave and myself this evening, this really represents a much larger team. And that I think gets to the heart of Dr. Kraft's point is that we're really interested, particularly in your district, around these sets of social networks, how people are connected to one another, how their relationships are supporting the important work you all have underway. And we know if we understand those at a deeper level, we can actually make some really deep and fundamental work and progress in communities and in schools. So that's absolutely a key component of what we're doing. Because we requested to have 6 hours with you and just talk about all of this, you're just going to have us back to talk more about the work around the sets of social relationships that we're working with. But we're really excited to be here and to do that important work. And thanks again, Dr. Kraft, for that good description. Dave, anything to add, or Katie?
I would just like to emphasize on the point of hope, just the tremendous amount of strengths that exist in the National School District. And, you know, when we think about the assessment, it's not an evaluation, it's an opportunity to really identify concrete steps to move forward, to continue to grow in collaboration on behalf of students. Please.
I'll throw out a couple. So you understand a little bit of my brain, which could be a cacophonous place to live. Dr. Daly, so my husband studied at UF under Russ Bernard, so network analysis is his thing. I honestly don't know how I married somebody who was a philosophy major and a researcher, because for me, it boils down to philosophy. The conversations are worthless to me unless it's going to be applied in effective ways that are useful and helpful. And it's the same way for research. My husband will spiral and talk about the like your standard deviations and all those kinds of things.
They're excited.
And I get the glazed over look in my face because I want to know when the rubber hits the road, what does this mean for our kids? And so I know, and I appreciate that the research is what sets the tone and what provides us with the information to understand what comes next. And I thank you for that. I just will also tell you I am looking for the what comes next. So that I'm looking forward to hearing from you, especially as you go into, hey, these are our needs, but let's start discussing all these fabulous assets between students and families and community and staff, and I'm excited about that part. So thank you for sharing tonight.
Yeah, just a quick comment on that. I'm desperately appreciative of that comment because I think one of the things that we've really been trying to do with all of you in partnership is to intersect high quality research and empirical work with direct applicability for the important work that's going on in the district. And everyone on this team, even though we are at the university, at least the UCSD side, we've all been practitioners, myself for well over 16 years. So unless we can attend to both the rigor and the relevance of the work, then we're not overly interested in doing it. So I'm really appreciative to hear you set that tone. And by the way, that's been the experience we've had throughout all the folks who we've partnered with the National School District. So thank you for that leadership too.
Dr. Kraft.
Mr. Gates, Dr. Gates, you can let him know those standard deviations, the discussions are very engaging. But I did want to share with the board, and I don't even think I got to share with the team because I'm just getting in the initial data that I, through LCAP as part of the partnership engagement, is I have been seeking input from various groups in our community and running, and the way I'm looking at it is kind of going the other way, is are the actions, are what we put in place, the actions, the movements that we're doing, are they having the outcomes that we're seeking? And so interesting that I'm seeing parallels in the data that I'm collecting with kind of these broader data points that are there. And so when we think about community schools, there are many components already existing in our school district that are already built in, systems that are built in that are providing that. And but having, these additional approaches from an outside, from a different perspective, should be able to better enhance what we are doing in the LCAP. So we could be measuring in the LCAP, for example, attendance, and it's a number. But what we're going to be able to tease out here is those that maybe aren't coming. What is the attendance issues? And we can assume as the educators on this side of many aspects, but it could be something completely different. And it can be related to a mindset and a belief system. And so knowing those components, we do know that culture and belief drive so much. Are we tapping into our actions aligned and enhancing the needs of the community? Because the LCAP is just, and if you look through it, is designed to serve the students in the community. And I'm proud that many of our actions are relentlessly committed to that. But could they be better? Of course. And could they be more refined for that more targeted data, that subliminal, undercurrents, so that we can better serve our community. And that, I think, is going to be the most exciting aspect that comes out of this. And I'm going to stop talking because I love this.
Any other input, questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you coming.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Process-wise, do I hang up on Dr. Daly?
Bye, Alan.
All right, bye.
Bye, everybody.
I don't know what to do. I'm gonna leave it here.
Process-wise, are you allowed to hang up on Dr. Daly?
Just
Item 10B is to adopt resolution 24-25.25, declaring the week of April 7th through April 11th, 2025 as the week of the young child. Do I have a motion?
To approve. Second.
Wow. Okay. Try again. Okay. Thank you. All right. So I'm thinking that we have maybe no discussion, but Dr. Kraft, will you please share with us about this?
Ms. Castaneda, why don't you come up and share with us about the Week of the Young Child, please? This is a favorite.
Good evening, good night. Board President and everyone else. I was not expecting to come up, but it is going to be National Week of the Young Child. So, I consider all of our children young children, but in particular, this is emphasizing our work with our TK students and our preschool students, and our teachers do an amazing job just getting children to love school and learning while playing. So they're playing, they're interacting, and they're learning not only social skills, counting. Just right now, last week and this week, we ended one of our cycles with our TK and preschool teachers with San Diego State University. And the children are doing counting, and we got to go to classrooms and see what they do. There's children that are counting above 30 and they're playing, and they think they're playing and they're doing patterns. It's pretty amazing. So we just want to highlight the Week of the Young Child. And we also have books for every child, just to celebrate and continue the love of reading. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. Motion to adopt resolution 24-25.25 by trustee Bettencourt Castaneda with a second by trustee Lopez. Please vote. All right, item passes 5 yes. Item 11 is human resources. We do not have anything for tonight. Item 12, business services. Item 12A is to amend project assignments for architectural and engineering services. Do I have a motion to amend?
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay. Dr. Burke.
Yes, this item is as a result of ongoing projects that we've had for fields and playgrounds. We had ELOP funding, which gave us new opportunities to extend our outdoor learning spaces and improve our outdoor learning spaces. They are expiring funds, so it's always a race to get them spent. And as a part of that process, we move forward with the many new fields and playgrounds around the district that kids are enjoying. As a result, we need to make sure that students can traverse from every single classroom on campus and from the site office to those new spaces. That is a part of the path of travel requirements that we have discussed. We do have Travis Kellner, although I barely recognize him. I think it's his younger brother, maybe. He took off a couple inches of beard, if you don't notice. So Travis is here. He is from SGPA architectural firm, and he is the one leading that process. If there are any further questions, we're either here.
Any questions? This whole time. Okay. All right, we have a motion to amend by trustee Bettencourt Castaneda and a second by trustee Lopez. Please vote. Okay, item 12B to approve CT 4270 with Swinerton Management and Consulting for Program and Project Management Services. Do I have a motion to approve?
A motion to approve.
A second. Okay, Dr. Burke.
Yes, I do have a point of clarification. I made an error on this one where it says cost. It does not say not to exceed. See, excuse me, not making an error. It does say not to exceed. I want to clarify that this is for project management. The process in this, in place for this was an RFQ, request for qualifications, and from that RFQ, we received applications to do some project management. The purpose of project management, this is for the bond funds. There will be some integration with the ELOP projects that I've discussed, but the primary source of purpose of this contract would be for management of the bond expenditures. The things that we want to consider when we're spending this quantity of money is the timeline, the costs, and the outcomes, and the communications along the way. So those are the big pieces that we need to look at that Swinerton, who we are proposing as an approval of project manager, would provide leadership and communication in those areas. Again, they're experts in this field that spend their careers on construction projects, coordinating and communicating and the oversight of large-scale construction. And it is complex, what we're trying to accomplish. It's 10 schools, and as we've talked about the architectural approvals of the paths of travel, we also have roof work inside of this proposal. So there's a lot of coordination of work and construction companies and bids that is, on top of what our district is doing every day to provide great service for our students in our district in the business department and maintenance and operations department. So it's the interest for this contract is kind of the opportunity and the scale of the work as it relates to both the Director of Maintenance Operations and myself, and how responsive we could be with construction companies, how communicative we can be with the stakeholders at the school sites and in the community on progress and timelines and all those things. Somebody could need an answer on a construction site immediately, and I'm in a meeting about something else and not available for several hours. That's going to slow a project down. Whereas we have a project manager on site coordinating the activities, that it's less likely that question is going to come up. And if it does, they're going to be on site or in the community and available. One of the key factors that we did in our request for qualifications was we had a matrix where we analyzed the responses, and they had to submit their qualifications. And we used the matrix as a district to score. And I know that Travis was part of that. I was part of that. John Hansen here from our purchasing and warehouse director, and David Castillo was also part of that scoring process. So once we went through that, we had 2 companies that were very close in score. So our next process, there wasn't one clear winner. So the next thing we did was bring them in for an interview, panel interview. It was, again, the 4 of us served as the panel as the leaders in that area for the district, and with our experts from SGPA, Travis. And we conducted that panel interview. And again, it was very close. Both the interviewed companies were very qualified and have a lot of experience, decades of experience in this work. And there's a lot of efficiencies to be had because of that experience. Again, I should go back a step. In the rating matrix, one of the things we really did consider, the number one was the cost, how much it would cost to work with them. And I want to clarify, as cost works, it's billed in the same manner as SGPA is billed, or our law firm F3. It's an as you use it. So the 250,000 is kind of a cap where we would be stopped from using them. I don't anticipate we would have to use them for every single thing that happens. David, myself, we're very capable of managing a lot of it, but getting everything off the ground is a key component. Getting the initial planning schedule done, getting the coordination around our break schedule, and knowing which projects we can do at which times of year, and then communicating that out to the community. That was a big thing that we requested as a part of our panel and our interview process, was how can you communicate these things to the to National City residents and the people who are paying the bond in a way that they can see exactly what's coming up and what the expected timelines on in real time. So of course, with construction, things change. You might have a project, rain can disrupt the project for 2 weeks, so the ability and their availability to make the adjustments on the communication tools, which would be public facing, posted on our CBOC website, and available to the public at all times, so that it's completely transparent as to what projects it is. Because even now, with the level of scope of projects we have, I'm not quite capable of telling you, oh, in 3 months we'll be done this one, in 2 months we'll be done. It's very hard with the rest of the business of the district to manage that. But we will have that public-facing document through this management contract should it get passed. So again, once we went through the process of the panel interview, I think there were a couple of key things in the end that swung it towards Swinnerton, the eventual winner. And the one I'll mention is that they have a very local presence, both as a construction agency, but also for the project management arm. We, looked into everything from their website and reviews of their work, and then also went to their LinkedIn pages as individuals to see, what does it say? Where does it say they work? Do they work in San Francisco? Do they work in LA? Or are they living in San Diego? And that was kind of the final tipping point that swung it towards Swinnerton, is that they have their project managers are here and on site available to us at the drop of a hat. They're in San Diego, and that was kind of the final factor. I should mention 2 other things before opening for questions. Number one is that it is, again, a not to exceed. It's billed along the way. Number 2, it can be canceled at any time for convenience. So we aren't locked into, we have to pay that 250,000, and it is from bond funds. And I can almost assure the board and the public that we will find $250,000 worth of efficiencies because these folks are doing the work as opposed to trying to manage it in-house. They will create more efficiencies that will say that. The total expenditures on all the projects that are going to be threaded into this are going to be over $20 million. So this is about 1% of the cost of the contract that we will find that in just through efficiency because we have folks helping us manage it. But if we are not finding that, if we are not satisfied with what we're getting, we can cancel this at any time. We negotiated it that way. It is a cancelable contract.
Trustee Lopez?
Thank you, Dr. Burke. Just for clarification, will this company also be doing the work, or are they doing the posting of bids, the selecting of bids? Could you talk a little bit about that process? What does that look like, the timeline?
Yes, and John, if you want to step in on that part, I don't know if it's necessary, but it will all be publicly bid and run through the proper channels. No, they do not have an inside track on any construction projects. No, they're just managing, and we will be going out to public bids on projects.
We'll still be doing the bidding. That'll still run through our department. What they have offered us is perhaps
just for community's sake, will you speak?
Oh, I'm
Speak in
sorry.
the microphone for us. Thank you
I
so
don't
much.
speak very much. Sorry.
No, that is community.
I just wanted to add, as Ryan was referring to, and your question about bids, we will still conduct a public bidding. Swinnerton's not going to be doing that for us. They will consult with us on perhaps, and with Travis on scope of work or that kind of communication. What they've offered to give us is a more contacts with contractors. Like, we have a hard time sometimes, and I don't know why, but we have a hard time attracting attention with contractors, even though we run advertisements. And it's always kind of been a thing here. And so one of the things I was excited to hear Swinnerton mention was that they have lots of people they can send our bids to, which should help us, because the more bidders we have, the more chance we have of getting excellent pricing. So I hope that answers your question a little bit. Sure.
Any other questions? All right. I have a motion to approve CT 4270 by trustee Avalos with a second by trustee Bettencourt Castaneda. Please vote.
Item passes unanimously.
Item 12C to approve payment of allowances for CT 4249 to RGC General Engineering Incorporated. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Dr. Burke?
I know way too much about Petromat after the past couple of weeks of learning about this, but Petromat is something that is, it's used as a repair for aging blacktop. And so what they do is it's a barrier layer that they put into place before they add new blacktop on top of failing blacktop or aged blacktop. And its job is to more or less create a new seal that prevents the blacktop from failing in the same place, because water leaks through and ultimately over time it creates a new failure spot. So that's been in Petromat is still a legal product. It's not an illegal product, but it is something that in the last 5 or 6 years has been seen as more of a challenge. And the reason is they cannot recycle the blacktop that when it's removed. So now we are, as public agencies, we're not supposed to use it because it makes the blacktop, any blacktop that they're tearing up and tearing out, not recyclable, because it is a petroleum-based product that when burned can create environmental hazards, and the disposal of it is regulated. So there is a California regulation on how you dispose of this product. We have it in our district. You will find it in areas of blacktop all across the country. It's not uncommon. You might beware of asbestos. Asbestos is a far more dangerous product that used to be used in tile adhesion and flooring adhesion. It's far more dangerous than Petromat has proven to be so far, but it's similar in that when they find it, you have to stop the work and say, hey, we're going to deal with this differently. With the asbestos, you have to mitigate it and bring in another company, and it's complex, and you have to get rid of it that way. With the Petromat, they still get rid of it, but now because it is not recyclable, they have to pay additional fees to dispose of it because now it is going into another type of waste. It's becoming a permanent waste because it can't be used. So as a result, it comes with additional fees, and that was part of the allowances in the original bid contract. And they did find Petromat. It wasn't providing any danger to our students. It wasn't exposed. Much like when asbestos is under a tile, it's not presenting a danger to anybody in the room. But this Petromat was, and it's far less toxic than asbestos, as far as we know today. But when it is removed like that, and we found it in this location, and it's not going to be it might not be in the whole block to blacktop. If they do a repair at a certain area and they need it in that area, then it's there. But you could tear up the blacktop, down the way in the same playground, and it's not going to be there, and you don't have to do it. So when they dug in here, they found it, and we need to dispose of it properly, and that has an allowance and a cost, and it is already in the contract that was originally bid. It's just we need to execute the allowance in this case. And I'm sure this won't be the last time we hear about Petromat as we continue this work on blacktop and paths of travel. It's going to keep coming up. So just, as we're learning about it.
Trustee Sarmiento?
Yeah, that brings me to my question. I noticed in driving into Pomeroy Elementary School, there's a huge pothole right in the middle as you're pulling in, and there's another one off to the side, and I drive through it and around it every day. And I just wanted to hopefully, see that we can take care of that, but that would be a good opportunity to throw that in there. Thank you.
There's a new product called TruePave that it's the current replacement for Petromat, and so yes, that might be a place where we're putting that to create a repaired flat surface.
So I don't need to bring my shovel full of dirt to fill it in, and somebody's gonna take care of it.
Exactly.
Thank you.
For clarification, is it on our property or is it on the city street?
School district, inside the fence.
Just one. Cool. Oh, not cool, but thank you for the answer. Trustee Betancourt Castaneda.
Thank you. Can I get clarification as to why this is an allowance versus an amendment?
It was because it was already a part of the original contract, and it's just an allowance should it be needed to be executed. Is that about the size of it, John? Is that how you would describe that? It's an allowance because it was in the original bid, and it wasn't needed because we didn't know it was there, but because it is found, that triggers the allowance.
But we've had this before where we had to just do an amendment. I don't remember seeing anything come across as an allowance. So I just wanted, just for clarification, I've not had any, I just don't remember seeing anything come across as an allowance.
Well, that's what it's. Thank you for the question. It is referred to as an allowance in the bid.
We just don't have that terminology on our board agendas normally. That's why I'm asking that question.
Right, and it's been a while since we've done an asphalt contract, and this is really the only thing that we actually use allowances for, at least to date so far. And frankly, it was a judgment. It was my opinion that this was the best way to do it. It's not really amending the contract because on the contract, it refers to a long list of documents that are also part of that 2-page contract. And one of those documents is the actual bid itself. And so then the thick bid itself becomes part of the contract. And in there it is, it does very clearly spell out $5,000 allowance for each one of the 3 projects that were in consideration. We just didn't bring forward those amounts, that extra 5,000 per project or 15,000, because at the time, we really didn't know if there was gonna be Petromat found or not. You never really do. If we hadn't have had those allowances in there, we would have come back to you with an amendment to the contract, because we would have had to amend the amount altogether, because it wouldn't have been mentioned in the bid or anywhere else. Right. So you have to, what I would say is that if you actually looked at the bid documents, and we didn't do that as an attachment here because it's quite thick, but in those bid documents, which are considered part of the contract, the allowances are included. Right. So all we're doing is asking for permission to go ahead and pay those allowances. But you're right, if we hadn't put those allowances in the contract, it would have come in as an amendment, for sure. Thank you.
Dr. Brady.
Don't go anywhere. So, question, typically when we do construction projects, when unknown things come up, we have change orders, and we try to keep those change orders under 10%, and then if they go above 10%, we bring them to the board and we have to have an extra approval. Or did I get that right?
Well, I think that all change orders are brought forward to the board, right? But by law, we're supposed to limit it to 10%.
Right.
So that is by statute.
But because this is a common, particular, unforeseen thing that pops up in these types of projects, this particular one was written into the contract as a change, as a allowance, because we anticipated we might find it, but we don't pay it out unless we do find it.
Yes. How was that?
So I think the
The answer
difference
to your
is
question is
usually doing
yes, that's
change
correct.
orders.
Yeah, that's why we wouldn't have done a change order. If there is an unforeseen hazard that we expect they may find, and it could be something else besides asphalt, it could be a different project, and we may be using allowances on some of the things that Travis is working on, or SGPA is working on for us. If we anticipate there's going to be unusual things, and with asphalt, you always have to anticipate Petromat, then yes, we do put in an allowance with the idea that we want to try to avoid change orders if we can.
Yeah, I know the change order was different.
Right.
But it was the amendment.
Sure,
It was
sure.
questioning, so
Well,
I
it's
do see the unforeseen, and it was built into the document, but the amendment was the wording that I was questioning, because I'm not seeing the wording as allowances, so that's why I asked.
I understand, right, yeah, this probably maybe refers back to a time when there wasn't an allowance and we had to come with an amendment to cover unforeseen costs or something like that.
That's a new word, that's a new title on there.
Okay.
I think the key factor is that it's already pre-written into the contract, so we're not amending a contract. So we're allowing the next lever to be pulled because it's necessitated. I think that's it. I think, yeah, it's different.
Want the clear transparency of the item. So now we know going forward, we've got allowances to clear.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I have a motion to approve a CT 4249, the payment of allowances by trustee Lopez and a second by trustee Betancourt Castaneda. Please vote.
This is unanimous.
All right, item 12D, to adopt resolution 24-25.20, declaring Edible Education LLC as the sole source provider for kitchen a la carte nutrition education products. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Dr. Burke?
Yes, these are for the after-school program. These would be purchased with ELOP funds, and the sole source is for the cooking carts because they are different than any other cooking carts available on the market. They've been thoroughly researched by our departments, both the education services and purchasing warehouse department. The key difference is that they have a larger surface area and they come with instructional curriculum and planning embedded. And this, a sole source enables us to purchase directly from that provider because it is providing a unique resource that we cannot get elsewhere. It's not something we do often. The last time we did was for the Lego educational products because nobody has that level of educational products. So we did it for Lego. And here, this is similar. We're doing it for the kitchen carts to provide that after school support or opportunity.
Any questions? All right, I have a motion to adopt 24-25.20, the resolution by trustee Avalos and a second by trustee Sarmiento. Please vote.
Oh, now I can vote.
And it passes unanimously. All right, and item 13 is board cabinet communications. Trustee Lopez.
Yes, thank you, President Gates. First, I want to say Happy Women's History Month to all the girls and the women. We are special. We are bright, creative, intelligent, and we are the salt of the earth. Also want to say thank you to the awesome superintendent roundtable. They were so good. Even our student who couldn't make it, the video was amazing. So thank you so much. And also congratulations again to our Shine writers. They were amazing, and just seeing that leadership just come out of the writing, come to life was really, really great. And congrats again to our Employee of the Month, Dr. Julieta Robello, and welcome to Pilar Pedro Navarrete. We love our bus drivers so much. Also want to say thank you to Mrs. Romo, first grade teacher at Kimball Elementary. I was able to read to her classroom last week or 2 weeks ago for Read Across America, and we had a great time. And just want to say shout out to Darla's little friend, Aaliyah, in that class. And I also wanted to share part of, being a resident in National City. I drive around and I've noticed that some of our students and their families are oftentimes standing, and I'm like, what are they doing? And they're standing waiting for the bus. Some bus stops don't have benches or even shelters. So I just want to say thank you to MTS CEO Sharon Cooney and MTS Chair Councilmember Stephen Whitburn. I submitted a list of locations near our school sites that need a bench and shelter, and they're going to get those in. Actually, just installed some of them. So I'm really excited. I drove by and I saw people sitting, and I'm like, yes, that's what we need. Our students who are waiting, who are commuting, who need that rest in their transition to school, to work. So thank you so much, MTS, for your work in our city. And also just want to say thank you, Dr. Kraft. Thank you for all your work and your dedication to our students, and for really working to close that opportunity gap, the academic gap. We are so grateful for your work, and I just pray your success in your next venture, and you'll always be part of our family. So thank you.
Trustee Sarmiento.
Thank you, you stole my fire. I was gonna congratulate the same people, but I just want to say that our students never cease to amaze me. They do some incredible things, and I'm just thinking about back when I was in elementary school where we didn't even touch upon what these kids are doing these days. It's amazing. Also, happy to hear that we have a new bus driver. Let's see many more. Let's put a shout out to them because we need them and they're wonderful, and let's get some more of those. That's all I have. Thank you.
Trustee Bettencourt Castaneda.
Thank you. I would also like to congratulate our student roundtable on their presentation here tonight. It's always a treat for them to be here. As I always mention, they have such an amazing leader, so it doesn't surprise me on their presentation. And I'm excited that I also got a golden ticket to be able to attend their Golden Forum on Earth Day. Hopefully I'll be able to attend. Congratulations to our Shine writing contest winners. I didn't realize that the little tiny student, Franco is his last name, Mateo. His sister is my son's schoolmate. And when I saw his mom, and I'm like, this is not your son. She's like, well, he wasn't even in existence when my son was a classmate with my son and his sister. So it's kind of aging us, I guess, but it's okay. I always say they're getting older than us. So, it was just so tiny and petite, and it was just so amazing on how amazing these students are in their writing. So it's just a treat to be able to see how amazing our students are. And congratulations to Dr. Julieta Robelo, our RSP teacher from John Otis, very much well-deserved. She was here as a community recipient, community volunteer recipient, just December, January, February are my months. Get a bunch together for her sock drive. So she's very much involved. So thank you for that as well. Let's see, and welcome to our new employee, our bus driver. I'm not sure if that's kind of being biased, but we were very, very excited for him to be here. So no disrespect to anyone else, but we're very excited for you to join our NSD family. And thank you to the Kimball staff for welcoming us to Read Across America. They actually had a very good problem to have. There was too many readers, so we go to a classroom and there was already a reader there. We have to come back and go to another classroom.
Was that in?
Kimball. They were very excited to have that challenge. So thank you to them to have welcomed us. I won't do my delegate assembly since there's a lot of information and you probably want to be out of here. As I mentioned before, about anybody who has any highlights of previous students, I wanted to share. I ran into a former PTO board member that I served with, and she has her child that is going into law school. So he's a former Olivewood student, and she's very excited because, as I mentioned before, oftentimes people like to put down us, you're from National City, you're not going to leave and, prosper and so on. And when she was sharing, her face just glowed. And those are the stories that I want to hear and I want to be able to share and to be able to highlight. So I wanted to let everybody know is our kids are amazing, our educators, our staff, and NSD does produce amazing students. So thank you to everybody who had a hand in this student's life, and he's making us proud. So that is that. And I wanted to wish my baby, my youngest of my babies, a happy belated 19th birthday. He celebrated on Friday. I was able to be in Oregon with him to celebrate. And then I brought him home with me. All my babies under one roof right now. So he is here home on spring break. So I'm excited. I'm a happy mama. With that being said, I wanted to say mental health is a very important thing, as you guys all know. And I'm a mental health advocate. Earlier at the beginning of our meeting, we had a moment of silence. As it was shared that we lost a former student and a current Sweetwater High School student. So please hold your children tight. Remind yourselves. Remind your families to always ask one another how you're doing. It doesn't take you long just to be nice to one another and to listen. It's important to listen to your children, to ask how they're doing, but to ask with sincerity. Because you never know what you're going to hear. You never know how you can save and help one another. Because that can be the time when you can help them. So please, hold your children tight.
let them know you love them, and give them a hug every single day.
Trustee Avalos?
I'm not gonna go through the whole line of thank you to all the children because our trustees here have already taken my speech away from me. But anyway, I do want to say that it's always an honor for me to give an award to our teacher of the, I was gonna say teacher of the year, but our Mrs. Julieta Robelo, an RSP employee of the month. And I did go read across America at 2 schools. And what I did this time was that I went to Kimball School, and I have a picture of myself with the whole group when I was in kindergarten. So I made a little bigger picture of it, and I showed them, look, I was here at school, Kimball. And I went, it was like, and then of course the first went, well, how old are you? And I went, oh my gosh. I just wanted to share that I was at Kimball School, and I went to Kimball and National Middle and graduated from high school, and I went around and passed my picture to everybody so they could see that I was there at kindergarten at school. But thank you very much for everybody that showed up, and all the presentations were wonderful. I learned a lot, and thank everybody, and of course, your employees. I'm not going to go through the whole list of them because you've already been told who they are. But thank you for coming. If I were to say anything about all my 5 grandchildren and 11 grandchildren, I'd be here for about 30 minutes. So thank you so much. Bye.
Dr. Burke?
Yeah, first, I would love to just thank Dr. Kraft for all her work and also for being such an incredible colleague, peer mentor, and most importantly, a friend. And it's been very special working with you, and always treasure it. I'm sure I'll be calling you plenty. And I'd like to thank also John for being here tonight to support the items that we had. Your expertise was instrumental. But more so, I'd like to thank him for the work that he's done since the beginning of October. As you know, you heard his expertise in the area of purchasing and contracts, and he is also our CNS director. We had a 4 or 5 month program review, in depth, like an audit. Very challenging thing to go through and to do all the purchasing and all the contracts, requests for proposals, advertising bids, all the things he's doing. It's really like, juggling many balls in the air. And the program review that was, again, in great depth, it came out squeaky clean. Not one finding for the 5th year in a row, or 5th time in a row. I don't know.
No, they happen every 5 years.
Every 5 years
Right.
it is, but there we go.
Right.
So there's a 5-year review with 0 findings, which in education, whenever you have a Title I review, a this review, there's always these little ticky-tack findings. And this was squeaky clean, and thank you very much for your leadership and the work on that, John.
Dr. Kevin?
I too want to congratulate all of the presenters tonight, and congratulate Dr. Robelo for her service and for everything she does, and welcome Mr. Navarrete to the NSD family. I also wanted to just make an announcement. This week, last week and this week, we went through the process of selecting our classified employee of the year and our certificated teacher of the year. So I just want to do a shout out to them. Our classified employee of the year selected was Laura Duran Mudia from John Otis, instructional assistant. So congratulations to her. And our teacher of the year is Alma Romero Evans from Rancho de la Nacion. So we're very excited to celebrate them. Congratulations. I also want to thank Dr. Kraft for her years of service in the National City School District and for supporting all the families and staff here. And yes, I will call you too. And thank you for your friendship and for your leadership in the district. And I just want to wish everyone a happy spring break.
Dr. Kraft?
I would just like to thank the board for the years of support. We've done quite a bit since I got here, and I don't think it would have been possible without the support, the keen questions, the reflection that came from the board. So I'm very grateful. Thank you. I want to thank the executive team. Your friendship, support, and ears have been a valuable asset. I'm grateful to we spoke earlier about the community feeling here in National, and it is something that is very, very special, that I will miss dearly. And it's from the school sites to the district office. The collaboration here has been wonderful. Business, HR, because it takes many hands to do this work. And speaking of which, I'm extremely grateful for the educational services team. It's always yes, and I'm so thankful. They're always willing to run with me, and sometimes to lead me. And I think that is a reflection, again, not only the commitment to the community that's internal in them, but also their deep belief in that every child can succeed, and the relentless commitment to make sure that happens, whatever that takes. I'm also very honored to have worked with such amazing teachers. They give they give so much to the kids every single day. And I'll be sharing with the board some of the survey responses. And even though they go and they go and they go, they ask, what more can I do? And I'm just very, very honored to work with such amazing teachers and our school leaders. They just never stop. And most importantly, I would like to say to the families a sincere thank you and deep gratitude for allowing me to serve your amazing children in this amazing community. Thank you.
Dr. Brady?
Well, I just want to thank the board for all of the positive things that you said about our students and our staff. We really do try to provide the best for our students, and to see them shine in a meeting and have it recognized by you really means a lot. So thank you for those positive comments. I want to save the rest of my comments to the board for Dr. Kraft. And I wrote something so that I don't ramble. Sharmila, and I'm going to call you Sharmila, even though we call you Dr. Kraft here, but Sharmila, your leadership over the past 7 years has left really an irreplaceable mark on the National School District. And it is hard to put into words how much you have done to shape our schools, support our students, and strengthen our community. Under your guidance, we've seen transformative curriculum adoptions, ensuring our students receive the highest quality education. You've helped navigate the unprecedented challenges of COVID, leaving the rollout of one-to-one technology so that every child had access to learning, no matter what the circumstances, from day one. And I think we were one of the first districts to have that all in place because of your leadership. You championed the broad course of study and pulled partnerships like Olivewood Gardens and Ocean Connectors, put our STEM program into place, our animation program, and so much more, Stein Farm, I could go on. Giving our students an opportunity to explore, create, and I forgot the gardens, grow. You led efforts to double our attendance in our REACH program. You built a strong MTSS system that ensures that every child gets the support that they need, and worked tirelessly to bring counselors to every single school. And we heard tonight just how important that mental health support is. Sorry, excuse me. Through your leadership, the LCAP, I gotta work on the LCAP. truly became a reflection of our community's voice, our staff's voice, and your detailed and thoughtful board presentations help to guide the district with clarity and vision. Because of you, all 10 of our schools have been recognized for their commitment to PBIS, and our students are learning in a more supportive, structured, and inclusive environment, leaving the district better than we were. Beyond all of these incredible accomplishments, you are kind, thoughtful, reflective, and wicked smart. Yeah, wicked smart. You're an exceptionally prepared learner, innovative, and compassionate world citizen, national city citizen. While we will all miss you deeply, we know that O'Farrell Charter Schools is gaining an extraordinary leader. Thank you for your dedication, your heart, your love, your vision. I wish you nothing but success and happiness ahead.
Trustee Bettencourt Castaneda.
Sorry, I did not forget about you. I just lost my train of thought.
I knew where you were.
My mind and expression was one of my terrible kids and my son's friend. So it was hard to keep contact, but you are going to be extremely missed as you're a very fierce leader in this district. And you're going to have tough shoes to fill. So please send somebody our way that you have confidence in. But thank you for your extreme leadership and your high level of integrity. You're constantly working. I don't think there's a time that you were never working. It was an ongoing, and I say that it's really, although we say it jokingly, but it's a true statement. So thank you. It's unfortunate that you're leaving, but it's for your family, and I understand, and I still totally support that, because you know that I am all about family, and it's the decision you have to make, and I know it's a tough one, and that's respected, but it's a tough loss. It truly is. And you know that we'll be calling you.
Yeah.
Thank
only
you.
down Palm, you turn left.
Well, we'll send car service. Again, thank you for all that you have done. And our kids have definitely benefited. And yeah, we appreciate you. So, this is for you. Hopefully I won't kill it.
Oh my. Gonna be monitoring that? Yeah.
Regular
phone. Oh, yeah, it already started.
We need to get some tier 1 strategies.
Some tier 1 strategy, yeah, ask the kids.
All right, well, I would love to start with ISIS. Trustee Lopez and I would like to do a trio with you at some point in time, so thank you, come back. It was just, that was an extra bonus that we received with that gift of song, and I'm thankful for it. I was able to have a visit to school district not too long ago, and I'm again thankful for everything that I learned and the patience that everyone shows when we do show up around the district. It is, we're received so graciously all the time, and so thank you for that. The Better Together presentation, thank you again for taking the time and for digging into that information. They are making, part of the job is to make the theoretical actionable, and we're thankful for that, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like for National School District as community schools develop here. I feel like I need to explain a little bit our obsession with bus drivers. Because, you know, we get a little giddy, but for a little while there, we were desperately looking for bus drivers, and we had some who stayed past their hoped for retirement to make sure that our students were cared for. I mean, literally, we're here like 1 to 2, 3 years past when they had hoped to retire because it was so hard to find bus drivers. And so, yes,
Do a sales pitch.
so we get very excited when we find someone who, because it's also not an easy job, not just the memorizing your routes and all of that, but having to keep a spotless record in order to have the right to drive our children. It's, you know, a big deal. So yes, we are a little weird about it, we know, and we're okay with that. Thank you. We're glad that we had another one here. Thank you to the community members who came tonight. We hope to continue to see people who are, whose heart is with us and the school district as you come and share thoughts and ideas and concerns with us as we look at this, these trustee areas. And I wanted to mention something that caught my ear as our students were presenting, the roundtable students were presenting. They mentioned that they were talking, I believe, about the environment at the time, but it hit me because it applies to so many other places as well. They said, together we can heal. And as we move forward, regardless of what space it is, that is in so many ways the truth. We thrive, we grow, we heal better when we are doing it with one another. And so I was thankful for that reminder. I do have to throw out a quick note to Mrs. Jordan, Mrs. Word, Mrs. Fuentes, that Carissa turned 29 last week. So remember, your students do keep getting older, which is odd because the four of us have agreed that we are not aging at all. And so I say thank you. And last and not at all least, Dr. Kraft. I want to thank you for your gift of time. It's not just the years you have spent, it's the hours that you have committed. I am ashamed. I don't want to know how many hours you have committed to the LCAP alone over time. Thank you for sharing your education with us and learning. I am thankful for the wisdom, which is different than education and learning, because you can have a whole lot of education and learning and not be very wise. And you can also be very wise and not have education and learning. Somehow or another, you bring them both to the table in beautiful ways. And I also thank you for your heart that has been so deeply committed to each child who is here and to making this a place where people thrive. You have been a blessing to us, to our community, to our students, to our district, and we will miss you. And with that, our meeting is adjourned.